Welcome back, everybody, to Those Nerds You Know. I'm Ethan LeBlanc,
I'm David McQueen.
and we are Those Nerds You Know. Today we've got Spider-Man stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's been out now for a bit.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, that
Obviously.
one. Spider-Man Homecoming, the new Marvel film,
The Sony/Marvel film.
partially
yeah.
put out by Sony. Yeah,
Partially. They're so happy that it's in Marvel now.
yeah, I'm sure they are. So they can just get money and
Right.
not have to worry about
Just-
messing it up.
Just print the money.
But yeah, I saw it opening weekend.
Yes.
Then
you
went
did.
again with you to see it the following weekend.
Yeah. I had work the previous weekend. Or no, I had other things going on. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was cool. We got to see it with a bunch of friends and stuff. The second when I went to see it, your second time basically.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
Overall thoughts is that it was very good. I enjoyed it quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
as I figured I would. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I like Spider-Man a lot.
What? You?
I enjoyed this movie.
With your Spider-Man glass and your Spider-Man mugs. And
A lot of people have been saying it's like the best Marvel movie or one of the best superhero movies, and I'm like, I hate saying things like that because I don't think it's the best Marvel movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fine movie. I think it's good. It's a lot of fun. There's more good about it than there is bad. I
Yeah,
have a couple nitpick things.
I'd say it's in the top 10 or top 5. I mean, it's
Sure.
I think it's a solid movie. I think it is. I don't know if it. Yeah, I don't know if I would go as far as to say it's the best Marvel or best superhero movie, but it definitely is. Yeah, it's definitely better than some we've seen, at least lately. But yeah, like I don't know. Some people were saying it's better than Civil War. I actually really thoroughly enjoyed Civil War.
As did I.
So I don't know. I
What'd
it
you
was
like about
good.
this movie, David?
What I like about this movie, I liked all kinds of stuff. I like, for one, I like the casting. I like the people they got to play. I like Tom Holland getting to play Spider-Man. I thought he did an excellent job. I thought he brought like good elements to both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Like he played the dweeby geek Peter Parker, but also the up and coming Spider-Man hero where he's just like he's confident in some bits, but it's really kind of like him kind of joking and bantering and stuff like that. But he's having fun being Spider-Man basically. He's a teenager, he's young, he's kind of growing into this role, and it's really neat. Like Tom Holland, the actor, is not a teenager, but he played that role very well because he is very young.
He did.
Um,
Spoilers for everything, by the way. I'll put that in the description, but
Yeah.
we're definitely going to spoil this movie.
Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, I also really liked Michael Keaton playing the villain in this.
Good choice, yeah.
He was excellent.
Keaton was great.
I like him coming back, especially from him coming back from playing Birdman, like to come
Yeah.
play Vulture. That was really great. And I thought not only was his performance really well, but I thought the material they gave him was very well. Like he's a very well written villain, and I thought he was. I think he was genuinely scary. First of all, like at least in his Vulture form.
Yeah,
In
definitely.
his Vulture form, he definitely felt like a threat to Spider-Man.
Super did.
But at the same time, like outside of the suit, when he was just do they ever say what his real name was? I don't remember what his regular name was. I just always called him Vulture, but the regular guy, his motivations for doing what he was doing, I thought was, I don't want to use the word justified, but it did feel like that. Like like he was a villain. He wasn't just being evil for evil's sake. He wasn't just in it for, some rush or something. I think, he was stealing what he was stealing and doing what he was doing because he wanted to have money for his family and because he had been, wronged in the past and things like that. And I thought that was very neat. I thought that was very interesting. I don't know much about Vulture in the comics, but I thought it was neat that the Vulture, his MO was taking leftover alien technology from previous like Avenger and Marvel movies and using that to make. I didn't make that connection.
I
until
love the MCU.
the movie started.
The MCU is all the characters are based off Marvel heroes, but there's nothing in the MCU that's really like pulled straight from comics. Really, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I think they've done a great job of adapting all these characters into the universe they have built. And so yes, the Vulture. I don't think the Vulture originally was a guy that just accumulated stuff from previous Alien or robot takeovers, but that works in this universe. It works really, really well.
Yeah,
And I
I
agree with you that he was a good villain. I think this was a very good, solid Marvel villain. That can and probably will return.
Yeah.
He wasn't a madman that went crazy or who was already crazy, who they had to annihilate at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
like a lot of.
I like that. Even also, like, as generally scary as he was in the Vulture thing, and as like, you know, as he had some scary moments outside of the suit with Peter, he didn't come off to me as like a cold blooded killer. Basically, like he killed that one guy. But it was, even then, it was played off as a joke. Like, it was like, oh, you know, I thought, yeah, I grabbed the wrong gun, basically. Yeah. And I thought that was neat because he didn't come off as a guy who was just a murderer. He came off as more of anything like a thief, or, you know, some guy who was trying to, you know, do heists and stuff. He didn't seem like this guy who just run around and, you know, murder people. So, I don't know. And yeah, like he would stick to his guns, as it were. He had a mission, and he was sticking to that mission. But yeah, he didn't seem that hardcore about it.
No,
in fact, like, I think one of the things I liked about this movie is that there weren't a lot of people that, like, one of the things I liked about this movie. There's many things. One of the things I liked about this movie was that there wasn't a lot of death in this movie, because I feel like a lot of these stories feel like to add weight to a story, somebody has to die, and like. It didn't feel like that in this movie.
I enjoyed the scope of the film.
Yes.
I enjoyed that it was, you know, just kind of localized around New York. It wasn't a big world-ending thing. That's something that I enjoyed also about Ant-Man. I really like that film.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It's a low-key Marvel movie. It's not as grandiose as all these other ones.
Yeah.
It's not... The fate of the galaxy is not at stake, and it's just, it was good, and it was about this hero learning to be a hero, learning what that means, more or less, which I feel we haven't really gotten. And this is the first MCU movie about a teenager, about someone dealing with being a teenager and being a hero, and one of the only ones with the secret identity, I think.
Well, Peter Parker? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, with the exception of maybe, like, Black Widow,
yeah,
kind of, but
really, yeah,
that didn't last long at all.
So.
All of her records got dumped, I think.
Yeah. Like, he's the only main one with a secret identity.
Yeah,
Ant-Man doesn't really. Falcon, Iron, none of them really.
Yeah, that hasn't been a big
Besides
thing.
Daredevil, I guess.
Yeah,
Daredevil's
the only one.
He's not
in
the movies. Yeah. So.
But yeah, I thought it was good that we kept it small and we explored this person's life.
Yeah. I thought one of the things that really was neat about that was I liked it's one of my favorite tropes, I think, for things like this, is it like what is it? Wake up, save the world, go to school, or go to school, save the world. Where it's just like he's a teenager and he's still in high school, and you know he's he's still Spider-Man and all these different things, but it felt really neat that the story was at his level, where, you know, he's seeing it from the perspective of a high schooler, and he's trying to do these different things, but at the same time he's got like the stakes of being a superhero. And that was really neat that, you know, they got the best of both worlds in there, and that he got to do some superhero stuff while also being a decent teen comedy for what it was. The movie. It's quite funny.
I appreciate that it's not all funny.
It knows when not to be funny. Yeah, it's really good. It's got a good use of tone in this movie for sure.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy it. What do you think about his suit?
I like his suit. I have some gripes with it, or not necessarily with the suit.
Voice them here, David.
Yeah, well, so I like that the suit it's got like all these different little gadgets and stuff like that. I like that it does the basic things for him early on. When they have that moment in the movie where they have the training wheels protocol thing taken off, and he has like access to like all of these extra gadgets and gizmos and stuff like that he didn't need. It was odd, but one of the things that like, and I actually really like that, because it showed the audience that he doesn't need all these things, and it's too much. We're not ready for this, or he's not ready for this, and all these different things. But B, one of the things I thought, my only gripe with the situation was that like when he entered the no training wheels mode, he had this AI that was basically teaching him how to use the suit, and I was like, where was she in the training wheels mode? Why wasn't she? Why wouldn't she be part of the suit, telling him how to use the basic gadgets and leading up to the training wheels off mode?
That's a really good point, David.
Because I actually really liked her AI. In fact, I kind of liked her a little.
Karen.
I kind of liked Karen more than Jarvis at times. I thought at least for Peter
more
Parker.
than Friday, David.
Yeah, well, Friday had very little to do with the movies, but Karen was good because she was like. She was funny, and she was good specifically for Peter. Like she fit very well with his personality. It was really neat.
That's a really good point, though. Yeah, he should definitely have someone teaching him how to use this.
Yeah.
Maybe he planned to release it in like increments. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
That's funny.
But that was one of the things I actually thought that in the theater when I was watching the movie. Like I had turned to Jake sitting next to me and being like, why wasn't she part of the? Why didn't she one of the basic features? Why wasn't that a factory model feature? But I don't know. But I like the suit. What did you think?
I thought the suit was enjoyable. I like the little eye things.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's so neat.
That is really cool, and I think that helps because that helps. So like something I like about this movie is that it's very fun. It's very comic book like. It's very cartoon like in various ways. So this is much closer to the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon series that's been out for a few years.
Yeah.
So sort of to that Peter Parker, and that's a lot of fun. And so I think having this mechanical suit or the suit, just specifically, I really like those eyes, how they can move up and down. Because in the comics and the cartoons, they do that with his facial expressions, but that would be hard to show on just like a fabric costume.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that they were able to get that was really cool. I think the suits.
One of the things I liked about the suit as well is that he had all these features that he didn't need and stuff like that. And one of the features I felt that I was worried was going to be like kind of the gun on the wall situation. I don't know if you've ever heard that with the movies and stuff. But basically, it's like there's an idea that if in Act 1 you see there's a gun on the wall of a bar, then by Act 3 that gun has to be used at some point.
Yeah.
And with Spider-Man, in his case, I felt it was his kill mode of his suit, because there was 2 instances where the suit tried to turn on the kill mode, and he was like, "No, don't do that," and he kept shutting it off. And it was funny in those times, but I was worried that by Act 3, the final combat, he was going to turn it to kill mode, and I like that he didn't. Like I like that he made the decision that no, I got to save this guy too. He needs to survive too. And I was just like, that was neat. I thought that really showed a lot of cool. Like that felt very Spider-Man of him to do.
It is. Very good character.
Yeah.
It's good that the 15-year-old wasn't a murderer.
Yeah, right? He did a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
I also really liked how, just a little bit on him, I liked that the test of will that was put on him with the building on him. In that one scene. Apparently that's a really iconic scene in the comics early on. Like issue 33 of Spider-Man when he first showed up. Like that was a really, really interesting moment for him.
Yeah, I love that scene. It's really good. I think he reacts very, very panicked in the way anyone would. But gets a hold of himself and pushes through it, and it's cool. It's a very Spider-Man thing to do. A very Spider-Man scene. So this
very underdoggy moment for him.
Yeah,
a very neat overcoming of.
This movie's it's very interesting, and it's very different than the other movies we've seen insofar as how it showcases Peter becoming Spider-Man or becoming better or learning things.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
One thing I feel... let me get my notes. I like how fun the movie is. I do like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel like it might have been a little too fun, but I like darker stories and I like angsty things, and and Spider-Man is an angsty character.
I did feel like there were some jokes that were just kind of, I don't know, a little much. Yeah, I felt that too. But
on top of that, not even just the jokes. I think the jokes are fine. They're fun and they're part of Spider-Man's sort of character. I think the jokes are part of Spider-Man.
Yes.
Really are.
Yeah.
Peter Parker maybe less so. I don't feel I remember watching this the first time and coming out of it, and still the second time, not feeling like this is a Spider-Man or a Peter Parker that caused or inadvertently caused and also witnessed the death of his father figure in Ben. I that's a critical Spider-Man thing. I didn't want to see it again because we've seen it twice already.
Sure.
And I don't think it needs to be that big of a thing.
Sure.
But seeing him and the way he acts and the way he does things, I don't think that Uncle Ben, it doesn't seem to me like Uncle Ben was his father figure. It doesn't seem to me like maybe in this movie, if you would say, hey, Uncle Ben died of a heart attack or in a car accident, and it was tragic and bad, but had nothing to do with Peter, I'd say, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think he's concerned about Aunt May, probably, even the way what she's been through, but he never seems to say much about it for himself. And he seems to be very occupied or preoccupied with Tony Stark. It's been, I think it's been mentioned or that somewhat retconned or confirmed that the kid who Iron Man saves in Iron Man 2, who's wearing an Iron Man mask, is Peter Parker.
Yeah, how did I heard that after the fact. I don't. Where was that released or talked about? Like, is that mentioned in the movie? Like, I don't remember.
No, it's not mentioned in the movie.
Okay.
I think I've seen it in some behind the scenes stuff, different things like that. I'll probably have to find it.
Yeah, but I heard people talk about that because especially since they talked about how basically like that it's been 8 years since the events of Avengers.
Indeed.
With the beginning of Spider-Man movie, which a lot of people were saying is kind of like confusing just because that means that the events of Avengers happened in 2008 instead of...
Or 2009.
2009 instead of when it actually aired, which was like, what,
2012?
12, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
So it was further back, and so it was a little harder to follow. I don't know.
Don't care. Not important to me.
It didn't bother me, but I didn't think that...
So it just feels to me like...
Spider-Man has such a connection to Tony.
Right, but... It seems to me that he's trying so hard to be a hero, right?
Sure.
That seems to be a lot of motivation for him. He wants to be here. He wants to be one of the Avengers. He wants to be on the team. And it seems to me like he wants to be there because he wants that. He wants to be a hero like Tony. He wants to be on the team. He wants to be saving people. Whereas I think previous incarnations of Spider-Man or other incarnations of Spider-Man, their goal is to protect people. Their goal is to use what power they have responsibly, as was the famous Spider-Man thing.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, it seems to be he wants it almost because it's cool. He does learn differently, right? He learns by the end of the movie. He decides, you know what? No, I'm going to help the little man. I'm gonna hang out in New York. I'm going to be where I need to be.
Sure.
What's important? I'm going to do what's important to me and what's important to my family and my area and New York. And he does learn that, and I feel like he does. But I feel like they changed that. They replaced Uncle Ben dying with, I guess, him learning how to be responsible, quote unquote, with what he's been given, both power and the suit or whatever, and learning to not be a hero for the sake of being cool or for the sake of being in this cool club, but to be a hero because that's what's expected of you as someone who has power. And I don't know. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I liked it too. But my thing is, for me, the whole Uncle Ben dying and things like that, it's not very clear as to how long ago that was, and it felt like because we skipped the that part of his life, it felt to me like that was something that happened, like I'm gonna say maybe a year ago or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
And I feel like he had that. He probably had that time where he was angsty and stuff like that. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like my thing is like he's also still a teenager, and like I know that like Amazing Spider-Man kind of was a little angsty, and Peter had
and really cool,
and Peter had his moments
and hip
in the Sam Raimi movies with what's his name
Maguire.
Maguire. That he had his angsty moments too about Uncle Ben, but I can't help but feel like that death, like while it did drive him and that is an important part of Spider-Man, I feel like I feel like the movie was just like, well, the only reason he's being Spider-Man is because of Uncle Ben. And it's just like in the comics, like Spider-Man is still a teenager and he still has fun with his powers. He still does things because he wants to save people. And, you know, it's not just because Uncle Ben died, but Uncle Ben dying is a big part of it. But I feel like it was neat to like have a lighter take on Spider-Man. And, you know, because it's like, I feel like because we wanted to put so much emphasis on Uncle Ben's dying, the movies before tended to be like, well, this has to be serious. He has to be serious about using his powers. But at the same time, I'm just like, well, Spider-Man's not always serious. He's still he's still a kid. He's still
super
young.
fun.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot. I like that he is still a teenager, and that I can buy that he is a teenager. I enjoy that. I'm not complaining that Ben wasn't there.
No, yeah. But I see your point too. I see what you're saying.
It just seems, it seems like they were doing so much to distance themselves from previous Spider-Man movies, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
I can definitely see where they would come from in that respect. That like certain points of his character, I think, may have been lost a little bit. Again, it doesn't ruin the movie for me. I think the movie was fine. It was good. It was enjoyable. I'll probably see it again. I like it. I'll endorse it.
I'd love to see it again. Yeah. Did you have any other gripes or any other things you wanted to say about it? Because I've got a few other things.
I mean, I've got plenty of things. Aside from the Vulture being revealed as Homegirl's father,
Liz Allen's father.
Yeah,
the crush, the love interest.
Yeah, it was fairly predictable. I felt as a Marvel film.
Sure,
but I mean, I think you can call that on just about any superhero film, at this point.
Yeah.
Because we can talk about this specifically another day, but I personally feel as though superhero movies and superhero entertainment genre now is what like westerns were decades ago.
Yeah. Where it kind of fits a formula a little bit.
Yes, and that like it's really popular. It's become really popular really fast, and people are just pumping them out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just can get formulaic in a bit.
Yeah.
I thought, it definitely got me that the Vulture was Liz's dad.
It totally got me. I thought
Adrian Toomes is
that's his name. Okay, Toomes. Okay, yeah. I was I thought when he opened the door and he saw Adrian Toomes there, Liz's father. I had thought that was the moment where everything turned on Peter, and it would have been like that would have been the moment that like somehow off camera. I thought earlier in the movie he had given away his identity somehow. I forgot what moment. There was a particular moment in the movie where I was like, oh dang it, now he knows. But it wasn't that case. It wasn't the case. And I thought that was the moment where he was going to be like, you know, Peter was coming to pick up Liz for the prom. He would have been like, hey, I have Liz, and you know I have Aunt May even maybe. Captive, and you're going to do what I say or else I'm going to kill them. And I thought that was going to be the turning point. Yep. But then it wasn't even until later on. And that once I realized he didn't know it was Peter, that made that tense scene in the car so much harder.
I love that scene in the car. The scene in the car is so cool, and it's shot so well. It's so interesting because everything's real. All the shots are real close up on Keaton, real close up on Peter. Yeah. And switches back and forth between those two. And so, like, even on this huge screen that you're watching this movie, it feels real close and real cramped, which is real...
Oh, yeah, the movie, it felt very claustrophobic right there.
Which is how Peter would have been feeling at that moment. And I think that was shot really, really well to display that.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I felt the same way with the scene with the building falling on him, where you felt tight and trapped.
That was shot really, really well. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Even like some of like the light on Keaton that's green in the car, so you can see it's super cool.
Yeah, it was very neat.
Well thought out, really, really well shot. But again, I think it goes back to the Vulture's a really cool villain.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can see him figuring things out.
Yeah.
Which is fun. Which is really cool. Ooh. What else did you like about the film, David?
I really liked that with Spider-Man saving Liz's life and then later saving Vulture's life, that when the Vulture was in prison, he wouldn't give up Spider-Man.
Yes, that was cool.
I thought that was very neat because when I was in the theater, it made me think very much of Flash and his Rogues Gallery in the comics, and also kind of in the show, in that Flash tends to have this like kind of like mutual respect with some of his villains, that Batman just never really. I mean, he kind of does with some of his villains, but for the most part, he doesn't. Like most of his villains want to just kill him. But with Flash, so many of his villains are just like thieves or crooks, like the Vulture, right. To the point where like they kind of have this. They make this deal with Flash that basically is like, as long as you don't kill anybody, you know, I'm not going to do anything drastic, but I'll still like, you know, I'm going to still chase you. I'm going to still put you in prison if you get caught, whatever. Right. And so they know this thing, like neither of them is going to go far enough to like hurt one another physically, or like none of Flash's rogues are going to come over and like kidnap his family or something like that, and he's not going to like murder them or anything like that. When they're like, hey, look, we're just trying to steal stuff, and he's just gonna, oh, I'm just gonna arrest you. You know what I mean? Like they have this kind of relationship a little bit, in that like they don't like each other necessarily, but they kind of get each other a little bit, which is kind of neat. I thought that was very cool, and I don't feel like a lot of the villains we've seen so far have had a similar connection with the heroes they faced. Most of them mostly because most of the villains we face already have been like killed.
Yeah, they're mostly maniacs and they get destroyed.
Yeah. So
only people like okay, what villains are left after MCU movies?
Loki's still around.
Loki's still around.
All of Iron Man's villains are gone.
Yeah.
Iron Man. Who was his villain in 2? Oh, it was
Whiplash.
Whiplash. He was killed. Yeah. So yeah, all of Iron Man's villains are gone. Captain America's villains are gone.
Red Skull's gone. Well, I mean, the guy that sort of took over Shield is gone. Hydra guy.
Yeah, the Hydra guy.
Well, there's the.
With Winter Soldier, the villain is
the guy that took over Shield.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
With
Civil War, that villain survived. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have what's his now? That's not Kruger, right? It's I don't remember.
Zemo.
Yeah.
Zemo.
Yeah. Zemo's still around. He was a cool villain. I think he's neat.
Yeah, he was fun. He's still
Doctor Strange's villain's gone. Ant-Man villains is gone. Oh gosh, so many of them. Yeah. So many of the villains are gone.
Fisk is technically still around if you want to count the Marvel.
The
Netflix.
shows.
Yeah, Netflix universe.
Yeah. Copperhead, did he live?
I think so.
Because I know Diamondback didn't.
No.
Right? Or is it the other way around? Cottonmouth died.
Cottonmouth. Yeah.
Whatever the other guy's name is survived. The second snake guy.
The other snake guy.
The snake mob boss, and then the villain died in the villain died in Jessica Jones and in Iron Fist. That's what it is. So yeah, no, so many dead villains.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, that's what I was saying earlier. It's just like it felt like in a lot of these movies, I guess to fit their tone, to push to make a decent movie, or in some cases show. It felt like for whatever reason people had to die. Not just good guys, but bad guys. Like we had to kill bad guys too. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, I like that in this movie. Like only one person really dies, and even that is kind of played off as a joke. Because it's like, you know, it just doesn't fit that well in this.
I like that. I like that Peter Parker's not a murderer.
Yeah,
that's neat. Also, but I mean, like, I don't think it would have been too different if he had to end up killing someone. Because like I've heard people gripe about the fact that there was a instant kill mode
on one of the guns
in Spider-Man's armor.
Yeah.
You're like, why is there an instant kill thing? Why would Tony Stark put this in this kid's suit?
Because Tony Stark has killed hundreds of people.
First off, it's Tony Stark. Yeah. He'd put it in a toaster. Like,
right.
It just doesn't matter. Also, we never established that this was a universe wherein the heroes try to avoid killing people.
No, that's
everyone on the Avengers has killed probably dozens, if not hundreds of people.
Yeah, no, that's always been a thing. Yeah, Spider-Man's probably the only one that hasn't killed anybody.
Likely, yes.
Yeah. It's just it's just not been a thing in Marvel.
Maybe Ant-Man. I don't know if
Ant-Man really
Homeboy's killed anybody now.
Well, how did Wasp die? I forget how he got out. Did he die?
How did his villain die?
Yeah, how did his villain die?
I don't know. That's true.
Did he kill him?
I'm not super sure.
What he did.
I don't remember that. I'll have to go watch that. Which I will gladly do.
Yeah, I would say Ant-Man's good, so that should be fine. Thor's villain. Who did he fight besides Loki, or was it Loki the second time? No, the Dark Elf was the second.
Yeah, Dark Elf. But he's also led armies against hundreds of other people, putting down rebellions and things. Like
I was just trying to think of another villain that
he's killed a crap ton. Yeah,
but he's dead too. Yeah. So all these villains are dead.
Yeah.
And then we know Black Widow has definitely killed people. She's been killing people forever.
What?
One of the things I did like about this, another thing I liked about this movie, was the high school situation he was in.
Yeah.
It felt very realistic.
Felt very high school.
But it also, for me, felt like a little bit relatable.
Yeah.
in that like he seemed to go to a kind of geekier or more intelligent school, and that all the students there were rather intelligent kids and stuff, and maybe been some sort of gifted thing. And it felt a little bit like our particular high school, in that most of the people had to have a certain GPA to stay in it and stuff like that, and so it was mostly general people. But even then, there was like there were still cliques because obviously it was high school and stuff like that. But like I hear stories about all these like the situations, people being bullied and things in high school and stuff, or you see things like 13 Reasons Why, where it's like all the kids are like stalkers, rapists, and murderers and things like that, and I'm just like, in my high school people just said mean things, and it was
on Facebook
maybe and it was just like, that's how it felt with Flash, where it's just like instead of Flash being this big hulking jock character that you see in so many high school
pushes you
stories,
into lockers and stuff.
He's just a guy who was being a jerk.
Just a moron who thought he was better than everybody.
And I thought that was very neat.
No way of backing that up at all.
I also really like that Peter as Spider-Man is not very good at his job. He's not very good at being Spider-Man yet. He's still getting it. And I think that's really neat. Because I feel like in a lot of it, like you do kind of get like that kind of coming of age setup with some of the previous reboots of the franchise. But this one felt very...
Well, that's another thing.
It felt very new to him.
It did. Like all of that felt really new to him, new to Peter. But that's another thing that I don't fully understand is that like I felt like at this point he probably would be actually fighting crime. And Lord knows there's plenty of nonsense going on in New York City in the MCU for him to have a hand in stopping something.
Sure. Well, my thing was...
But I don't know, the community thing seems to think of him as a crime stopper. They mention him as a neighborhood crime stopper at some point when they have a picture of him getting out of the porta potty, which is great. Yeah, that's such a good picture of him. But like, I love that that's a thing. It's all light and tone, and it's all really comedic. And he's still, having a tough time figuring out what to do as a hero.
Well, I think that this is probably his first time having his own villain. I think was a big thing. And it was like his first time actually like really like solving a crime, like as opposed to him just stopping it in progress. You know what I mean? Like I feel like before he'd stop bike robbers maybe, or like the video on YouTube where he stops a car from hitting a bus or something. But it's like, I think this is the first time he's ever faced somebody who was like had a plot to overthrow and things like that. And so he's very new to that part of it. I also really liked you get to see Spider-Man when he doesn't have buildings to web on. And I had to
that's
get
great.
That.
Holy
was
crap,
very
that's
neat
hilarious.
Because I've thought about that before, and I remember talking to somebody before in a we've talked about I talked to somebody before in a who would win type of situation, and somebody I was like, Spider-Man's great, he would win a bunch of these fights, and somebody was like, no, Spider-Man's terrible. He's like he's a superhero whose power set is specifically designed for a hero living in New York. Like he's like, put Spider-Man in the desert, and he just would not be as useful. And I'm like, well, I guess not. Yeah.
I think if you put Spider-Man in the desert with Captain America in the desert, Spider-Man would still be more useful than Captain America.
Maybe
because they're at about the same power set. I feel they're both very strong. They're both probably faster than normal. They are faster than normal people. Add on, I mean, Cap's probably a better shot.
Yeah, I also feel like
Spider-Man's got webbing and he's a genius.
Well, I feel
more
like
or less.
I feel like if they were to fight now, it wouldn't work because
Cap has more training.
Exactly, and that's the thing. And I like that that's mentioned by Tony at one point where he's just like, if Cap was really like trying to hurt you, he would have hurt you.
If he wanted to lay you out, he would.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, probably, because it's like, while I do believe Spider-Man he's capable of doing heroic things, I feel like he's still getting his feet under him, basically. In this,
definitely,
which is really neat.
Definitely true.
Like I feel like it was neat that they
probably hasn't developed his own martial art yet.
Yeah, right. His own spider foo, whatever. I don't know.
Way of the Spider, I think.
Yeah, Way of the Spider. Yeah, I like that, and I also like that they did it in a way that was like self-deprecatingly funny. That he wasn't very good at his job, but not in a way that he just was useless. Like it made it like he wasn't the butt of every joke. Like he had some funny moments, but he was still capable in that he was still innovative and he was still like quick on his feet and things like that. And so he was able to like improvise and figure things out and stuff. So that was really neat. And that's very Spider-Man as well, especially in the comics.
Something I like about the suit that I forgot to mention earlier is that it's something that allows us to see various things that have happened in the comics. all wrapped up in this sort of one quick movie.
Yeah.
You know, like his ridiculous parachute, his wings, all the different kinds of web shooter things that he's come up with, all that nonsense. It's interesting to me. It seems like it was a good, fun little plot device, a way to plug in a whole bunch of things that have been in the comics in a quick and cool way.
Yeah.
There was another thing like that I forgot that I was going to say a second ago, and I forgot. One thing is, I appreciate the fact that the girl in this movie wasn't Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy.
Mm-hmm. It was
Liz
Allen. I don't know if a girlfriend in the comics or not. I'm not very familiar with her before.
All I know is Spider-Man's dated a whole lot of chicks, and so I'm glad they didn't. Oh yeah,
he's had the most girlfriends of the Marvel heroes.
I'm glad they didn't lean on Stacy or Mary Jane.
Yeah. What did you think of the supporting cast besides the villain and the hero of the story?
I like Ned a lot. I hear he's an amalgamation of characters. I don't know them all very well.
Yeah, I'm not familiar.
But that was really fun. I like the idea that he has a guy in a chair. I like the idea that he has someone else who knows what's going on, and that it's a high school kid who's just like super excited about superheroes and all that nonsense. Because it's
I love all his questions.
Because everybody can be like us.
Yes,
all of us would be like, what
definitely.
All the viewers would just be like,
he's definitely
my best friend's
a foil for
superhero.
the audience. Yeah, I love that a lot.
Yeah.
And I really like that he.
Can you summon an army of spiders? Can you spit venom?
Yeah. I also like that he is kind of a nerd like Peter, and so they mesh well. They have really good chemistry together, and I like that he was able to help Peter. Like, he wasn't just this bumbling idiot. Like, I like that he was able to save him with the web slinger at one point.
Yeah,
that was kind of neat.
That was cool.
But yeah, like, I really like Ned a lot. I think he's funny. I love when he's helping him in the school and he's got all the computers everywhere around him. He's like, guy in the chair, and he spins around or whatever. And then later on, the teacher catches him. I love that so much.
It's all right. I didn't really laugh at that joke because I could see it coming, and I was like, don't say porn. He's like, porn. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I guess. It would have been a whole lot. It would have. Well, I guess he's
generally,
not a smooth character.
Yeah.
So like, if a smooth character would have been in his situation, it would have been, I was playing video games,
right?
Because that's probably what it would have looked like to any teacher coming in without a lot, and that would have been easy to understand or to believe. Although I'm sure it was easy to believe that he was looking at porn too. I guess.
No, I mean, I don't normally laugh at jokes like that, but I thought that one was kind of well delivered. I felt that was a good setup. But besides Ned, I liked his friends that were in the quiz bowl. I liked Liz. Yeah. I thought that she was neat. You got to see her do a bunch of stuff and be there for Peter. I was worried she was gonna be like, they built her up as this character that's kind of like out of his league, and I thought that was gonna be the case. But they actually seemed like he
got the girl
cool
kind of, and then he let her go.
Yeah,
what a good man.
Yeah, that's the heroic thing to do, I guess. Indeed. I don't know, but
these are all true things.
And then. So one of the gripes I have as far as the supporting cast goes has to do with Zendaya or whatever.
What you got against Zendaya?
I actually don't have anything against her. I thought she did a great job. I thought she was real funny. I thought all of her bits were neat. I actually kind of like her being MJ. I'm not against that. My problem with Zendaya is I felt like, to me, she, like, her casting, I felt she was probably one of the more popular people in the movie, as far as, I don't know, maybe I'm not, I mean, I haven't seen any other movies with the other characters in them.
I mean, probably more well known.
But she, what you mean? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but like, I just felt like she could have done more with the movie, or I feel like they could have given her more with it, because I felt like when she was on screen, she was great.
Yeah,
and she's popular.
I like that.
I like that
it was low key. I like that
it would have been nice to see her more often, or like see her. I don't know. They just kind of like, I felt like they just kind of like kept putting her in as gags, and I felt like because of that, like, there wasn't a lot going for this character, except that she was just kind of the funny, weird chick. Yeah. And I was like,
But I mean, I'm fine with that, because Peter has no feelings for her right now.
No.
So it would have been superfluous to put her in more scenes. She is a more popular.
No, but I mean, like, it would have been neat to have her as like the third friend or whatever, like her, Ned, and
Someone else who knows about.
yeah, being Spider-Man or whatever. Her being like, somebody covering.
I don't know. I think it could have been too much at that point. But
Maybe.
again, like, it helps me to understand and feel that Peter is, this awkward kid, especially around girls. That his closest friend is Ned, and that he's not good at being friends with girls, with MJ or with Liz.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have been harder to understand.
I can see that.
His difficulty with talking to Liz if he was just really good at talking to Michelle.
And it wasn't a big thing. It was just like a nitpick. It just bothered me.
I also feel like
it
was a good play not to put a popular singer in a whole bunch of scenes. And you set it up for later. I mean,
yeah, that's always good too.
The fun thing about this is that he's still in high school. He's still a sophomore.
Yeah.
So we can still potentially have another movie of him still being in high school, and these characters can develop a little bit further.
Sure.
As high schoolers, and I think that's cool. It's something we can do. This is a character that we can grow with in the MCU, and I don't think we have had that before. Outside of maybe what's her face, Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
But she doesn't have a whole lot of her own screen time or arcs to really relate to anyway.
Yeah. In the same vein of the supporting actor or supporting cast thing, I liked that Tony Stark wasn't in the movie that much. But
I agree.
Don't really like him being in the movie much at all, and I don't really like, I don't like what he brought to the movie, and I don't really like what Happy brought to the movie, which is that he brought nothing to the movie. And I don't know, like, one of my gripes I wrote down, one of the things I was thinking about was that they made Happy rather dumb in this movie, and it felt very teen comedy in that, like, whenever Happy early on in the early Iron Man movies, he was always calling Tony out on his BS, and he was always protective of him, and he was doing things like that. But it's like, it feels like over the years, he's just kind of become the butt of jokes, and he's just become more and more dopey, to now it's just like, here, he's just the adult that doesn't listen to the teenager. And I'm like, what? He's still an intelligent bodyguard. Why wouldn't, like, there's a person selling alien weapons, and Happy's just not, like, hearing any of this. Like, it just felt very odd and very
it does feel very odd.
Teen comedy. But then the same thing, I felt the same thing about Tony with his role on it. Like, they have that moment. Two things about Tony's interaction with Peter. One of them is, I didn't like that we already saw him coming out of the suit in that scene where, he's like, you're not even
I don't
here.
like that we saw half the freaking movie on the
that trailer. I'm going to say, I don't like we saw that scene in the trailer.
I hate trailers.
Because, I know.
I hate them.
I know you do.
They're the worst.
I know.
I'd like to have a section where I talk about how much I hate trailers.
That scene would have had more impact if we hadn't already seen that he was going to be there in that moment.
Yeah, guys.
But also, like, in that same scene, he's just like, I'm the only one that did believe in you. Like, that's why I've been, watching you and doing all these different things. And I'm just like, if you were really doing all those things, you would be more aware of the situation, and you're definitely not. And, like, I'm just like, I just don't understand. Like, the whole time, it's just like, Tony's just like, I'm on your side, and I'm just like, he's an a-hole. And, like, I know a lot of people were like, oh, man, Tony's always been an a-hole. And I'm like, I mean, I guess, but, like, I don't know. I feel like they really bumped it up to 11 in this movie. I felt like they kind of, like, villainized him for this movie, and I'm just like, I don't like this turn they've been taking with him.
I don't feel like they villainized him at all. I think it was fine.
Yeah.
I think it was because again, he talks about himself as a father.
Yeah.
And so again, I feel like they were pushing this father-son relationship between Peter Parker and Tony Stark, and they were.
But see, that even that didn't feel right. It felt forced. It felt like bad.
Well, yeah, because it shouldn't be there. But again, that's because Peter Parker had sort of set Tony on this pedestal.
Yeah, he has his admiration for him, for sure.
Precisely. And so again, it's Peter's. I think Peter's motivations were in the wrong place to begin with, on why he wanted to be an Avenger or be with Tony Stark and be on the team or whatever, be a hero. I was perfectly fine with Tony's involvement. I think. I feel like it was a good way. What am I trying to say? I feel like it was a good way for Peter to end up learning that he didn't need to be an Avenger to be a hero.
Yeah.
And I feel like if Tony Stark had not been involved in that way, that we wouldn't have gotten that dynamic. He wouldn't have learned that lesson.
Sure, I can see that.
I do like that Tony did believe in him. I do like that Tony was able to teach him the fact that he did not need his suit.
Yeah.
To be
I
Spider-Man.
do like that too, but even then it just felt very, I don't know, like it felt like he did that for his own, like it all came off as everything was for Tony and nothing was for like Peter. Like he kept saying these things to Peter about like how he he believed in him and he cared about him and things like that. And I'm just like, I don't buy any of that. I don't buy this about your character.
No, because Tony's always out for himself. I understand that.
And I get that to an extent. It just felt, I don't know.
I still maintain
it just felt very skeevy the whole time, and I'm just like, I don't like this. I don't like this dynamic. I don't like any part of this. And I felt like the same thing could have been done. Like it made sense that they did that it was Iron Man because of how his interactions with him in Civil War, and I thought his interactions with him in Civil War were neat because at that point he was really just using Peter for Civil War. Like he was just trying to get another guy on his team and stuff like that, and it makes sense that he would try to keep Peter close to his vest, basically. Like this is an investment, basically, and he sees in Peter. But it just feels like he could have done this. They could have done the same thing without him. Like I don't know. He came off as both detached and not. I guess like he was like, oh, I'm here the whole time, but it's just like, but I'm not really here. I just sent a Joan here to fight for you. And I'm like,
he came off like Tony Stark.
It just I don't buy that though. Like I don't like that because.
So how do you think Tony Stark is?
I think that he's better than he puts himself out to be.
Yeah, I would agree. And
I just don't like that.
Do you think he's better than people have written him to be?
Yes. Okay. I think he's generally better than he's written to be. At least now. Like since some of the events of the Avengers and Ultron and things like that, I feel like he's had this like kind of downward spiral, especially during Civil War. They tend to like they just keep putting it as like Tony's the bad guy. Tony's always been the bad guy, and I'm like, what? No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
I don't get that either. I do not feel as though he's always been the bad guy.
But I hear that a lot on like Reddit and online and stuff like that. People don't like Tony Stark.
I do feel as though
and I'm just like, no, like.
I feel like he has learned lessons. Mm-hmm. But he hasn't always changed certain habits or certain ways of going about things. Yeah. In response to learning those things.
Yeah.
I also have to think. I mean, you have to think of like where he's coming from. In that he is one of the only members of the team of the Avengers or of the MCU who doesn't have powers.
Yeah.
And has to react to things that happen with his tech.
Sure.
And so I don't blame him really for Ultron.
No.
I don't blame him for giving Spider-Man a suit because I mean he does that.
No, I don't. Yeah, I that's fine.
And I just feel like maybe he does. I feel like he does care about Peter. I feel like he does care about the future of the Earth. I feel like he just cares about the future of the Avengers. I feel like he probably understands that he's getting older and he probably can't be Iron Man forever. I feel like he wants to invest in the future of the team. Yeah. He wants to invest in the future of being able to protect Earth. And Peter Parker is one of the things he wants to invest in. But even though he does now care about people in a way that he didn't before, he may not know exactly how to express that all the time. And like a dad or like a man, I guess maybe. Doesn't always understand the best ways to go about expressing things, and sometimes maybe he's like, well, I can make suits, I can make tech, I can improve people's life, I can maybe get Peter to join the team if I give him this cool stuff, and if I help him learn how to do his thing. And so I don't feel like Tony was painted as the bad guy. I feel like Tony was just painted as a guy that didn't quite get how to best help, but did end up helping regardless.
Yeah, I know, but it just felt like, and like I know he takes credit for it towards the end, but I don't feel like it was really his to take. Like I don't think he took the suit from Peter because he felt that taking the suit from Peter would teach him a lesson. I think he took the suit from Peter because he thought Peter was being, immature and he wasn't thinking straight and all these different things, which I think is a legitimate reason to take the suit. But I just feel like at the same time, like I don't know, it just felt like like a weird time for the movie. I thought it worked out for the plot. I thought it was really neat for the plot. I don't know. It just all felt very fake. It all felt very contrived. Yeah, it just didn't make any sense to me. And then like, it just felt very manipulative. And like, my thing is like, if he really did care about Peter and he really did want like to, I guess, to build on his investment, why wouldn't he send him on some missions, even if it was like, oh, I need you to get over here really quickly and bring me the something. Like, why wouldn't he send him on some like little like gopher missions or something to test out the suit or different things like that? Like, I
understand that, but probably because he doesn't know what he's doing. And because he's not a team leader. Like, he's always painted himself kind of as his team leader, but he's not.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference we see between... so, like, if you... Again, you can draw a lot of parallels between this Peter Parker in the MCU with the Peter Parker in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon series.
Yeah.
That Peter Parker in the cartoon has...
Nick Fury.
And Coulson.
Yeah.
Both to help him and watch over. Nick Fury is used to running a team.
Yeah.
Having missions. He's used to giving orders. He's used to teaching people how to be team leaders.
That's what I would have preferred to have, except that the way they've written the story,
we're not set up for that.
We can't do that. And I don't blame this movie for that.
Right.
But I felt like, if anything, I thought it would have been at least neat if like maybe Happy was part of that. But it just felt like, that wasn't at all.
Happy did feel kind of like dumb. That's
he was just superfluous in my opinion. And my thing is also like Tony gave him this mission to watch over Peter, and then basically told him to do all these other things that weren't at all important.
Precisely, yes. And that's the other thing is like I think a lot of it is not Happy's fault.
No, it's not his fault, but it just felt very. It just felt very like why put this character through this situation if it doesn't affect the story?
I do feel as though
it built up to this lame.
I do feel as though if you walked up to Tony and said, "Hey, this is one of your illegitimate children that you definitely have a lot of."
Yeah, that you definitely have a lot of.
He's a teenager now. Deal with it. I feel like this is how he would deal with a son, quote unquote.
Okay.
I really do feel like that, and so I don't feel like his involvement was bad. I feel like it was fine. I think that's probably exactly how he would handle the situation. I like Tony Stark. I like Iron Man. I like the character they have in the MCU.
I do too. I really do like Tony Stark. This movie.
But I mean, like, and yeah, they might
like, this feels so weird.
I guess they might paint him as a bad guy, but I've never seen him that way because I like him.
Yeah.
So it's just never bothered me.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just how I felt with this movie, though. Like, he's fine. Robert Downey Jr. Plays them very well and things.
But I mean, like, I feel like just a lot of people in the MCU learn lessons that they don't fully act upon.
Yeah.
I mean, Bruce just continuously isolates himself. Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
To the point now where he's probably on another planet.
Yes.
Waiting for Thor to find him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just.
Yeah. No, I get that. It's nobody seems to really learn all their lessons.
No, I'm not super upset at Tony, for acting how he acts at any point.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But that was my major gripe with it. The otherwise the movie's fine. Like, the movie's great. I think they did a lot of great stuff. And like I said, he's not even that big a part of the movie, so I think it was
I think it was the perfect amount of him.
Yeah, it was just fine. But
just fine.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's anything else I have to talk about for this movie, David. Credit scenes were cool. The final one was really funny.
I thought the final one was funny, but for me, that scene, like, presented why I am like disliking Marvel doing these things.
Oh yeah,
it's the reason why I'm just like, okay, can we not do this anymore? Like, this is, it only has so much funny before I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't think they have any other route. Well, I mean, they usually do at least one serious one that's about the future.
Yeah,
which is cool. Generally. But I think at this point you can only do so much because they announce all the things that are happening so far in advance.
Yeah. So just don't do them. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't.
I think
like,
it's
why do they
need
a scene at the end of the movie?
I think they feel like they do.
That's what I'm saying.
Because people expect it.
I feel like it's become a crutch for them, and I just feel like it's unnecessary. I don't know. I feel like Marvel. I feel like Marvel is better than it thinks it is, and also at the same time not as good as it thinks it is, as we've talked about before with their Netflix shows. Like, I think they got too big for their britches in that.
My word. Well, no,
But
I mean, I think in some circumstances they're fine. I really enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 end credit scenes, all 4 or 5 of them or whatever they were, because they were fun to sit through.
They were fine, yeah. They were fine, and they were peppered out throughout the credits, so I didn't mind that either.
I don't like waiting through a whole boring thing of credits for something that may or may not be enjoyable. I wish that's something they should do. Is in the front they should just tag it and be like, hey guys, the good one is right after the first bit of credits, and the one that you don't really need to see is after all the credits, or the really juicy ones at the end of the credits, not the mid-credit sequence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But whatever. I guess that's what you got the internet for.
Yeah. That's what I think too.
So
8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was fine. I don't like ratings, but I really think this is a movie people should watch. Do you think people that don't know anything about Spider-Man and or the MCU would get this movie?
Sure.
Yeah, I think so too. I think people should definitely just go out, give it their money. Yeah. I hope Sony and Marvel make a lot of money off this movie, because I hope that Sony takes some of the good messages from this that they did right and continue with this series.
I am excited for another one of these.
Yes.
I am. This has made me excited to see Spider-Man again.
Yes, definitely.
I'm super pumped about that. It's also, I enjoy that we're at this point now where we can have a movie about a hero and have other heroes in it, and not necessarily market the movie as a team-up movie or anything like that.
Yeah.
It can just be a Marvel movie, and there are other heroes in it, and we understand that now, and that's great.
Yeah.
Because that's how the Marvel series works.
Yeah, I would like to see eventually movies, where
I think it'd be really cool
where they introduce the movie may be about a hero, like it's a new hero, say for Black Panther, or more like for Miss Marvel or something. Mm-hmm. We see that character coming into their hero form, but we see other Marvel characters interacting with one another. But I also kind of hope that one day we get to the point where we have movies that are just like Marvel movies, that are just kind of team-up movies, without being they don't have to be the scale of Avengers,
right?
But just more than just the one hero.
Yep. Which is hopefully what we'll be getting with the Defenders.
Yeah.
Yes. Low-key, small.
And it's kind of what we're getting with Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that. If it
wasn't called Thor or something, it would have that movie looks like it would be what I'm talking about. Where it's a team-up movie without being
excited for that film.
It does look really good.
But I would love to see Spider-Man interact with Doctor Strange.
Yes. I would love to see that. I would really love to see that. I'd love to see a lot of the heroes that haven't interacted with one another interact with one another.
Yes.
I'd love to see Ant-Man interact with a bunch of the heroes in the Marvel Universe, or really any of them, because I don't know if I'd really consider what he did in Civil War.
Thanks for thanking me.
Interacting with other Marvel heroes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have been neat to see him team up with somebody, or do something significant. Yeah, right, exactly, or something.
Yeah.
I think that'd be neat.
Good. It was a good movie. Go see it. If you haven't, I assume you would have seen it already if you're listening to us.
Yeah.
Go see it again.
Yeah.
It was good. Good direction. Yeah, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Glad that Spider-Man is with the MCU.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think that about covers it for this topic.
We're good.
Yeah.
What are you going to talk about, David?
You talk about me? I'm going to talk about the Legends of Tomorrow show on CW. Specifically season 2 of Legends of Tomorrow. But I'm going to try... So, in the past, when I've talked about the CW shows...
So, how many legends are there?
Ooh, 40.
And how do we know about them if they're from tomorrow?
They're from tomorrow. Well, only one of them is technically from tomorrow, and that's Rip Hunter. He's their leader.
The other time travel, one of the hundreds of time travelers in DC who's come from the future.
Yeah, basically. So yeah,
it's so funny that they met. I think you and I were talking about it a while ago, and how they were talking, revealing a character that was from the future, with future technology to be a hero, and we were talking about all the people it could have been, and this is not. We had no idea it would have been a Rip Hunter,
yeah.
Booster Gold,
yeah,
or anybody else.
Yeah,
it was oh no, it's Rip Hunter.
Who's that? Yeah, exactly. No, that's how I felt when this show first came out. But Yeah, no. So what I wanted to do for tonight, for my topic tonight, is I wanted to talk about Legend of Tomorrow season 2 specifically, but I wanted to talk about the show generally. But I want to also, in the past when I've talked about CW shows, I've kind of gone into spoiler territory. But I really don't want to go into spoilers that much in this show if I can help it, because I actually don't think a lot of people watch this particular CW show, and it's a lot of fun, and I think everybody should watch this show. And so I want people to check it out. So I want to talk about exactly
just a bit, just leave you on edge.
A little bit
so
about what the show. I want to talk about a little bit about what the show is. So basically, Vandal Savage is a villain in the DC universe. He's like a caveman who gained immortality, right, from like a radioactive meteor or something like that.
Eating really well. Is that paleo diet?
Yeah, right. Paleo. Yeah, he's lasts forever. So there was a situation with him. At least the way they present it in the comics, he's a caveman. In the movie, in the show, he's a guy who, I think he was in Egypt or something, and he was like the vizier or the like some counselor to like the pharaoh or somebody special in back in ancient times. But basically, this thing happened where I believe he cast a spell when a certain meteor was overhead, and it gave him some sort of power, and it basically made him immortal. But also, he had this thing where he felt for this girl. He really loved this girl, but she was with this other man that she loved instead. And so basically, he kind of cursed the two of them to basically always, like every time they die, they just reincarnate. And basically, his plan is to finally find some way to get a hold of this girl or one of her reincarnations and make her his, basically, like marry her. And just
sounds romantic, David.
Basically, just keep killing off the guy. In this case, or in the story, the characters in question, the couple, is Hawkman and Hawkgirl, and that's actually like their backstory. It's pretty similar to their backstory in the DC universe in the comics. So, Rip Hunter is from the future. He's a time traveler from the future. He's a time master.
Oh!
Which I guess is the DC's equivalent to
a
Time Lords. Which I think is really neat because Arthur Darvill plays Rip Hunter, and he played one of the Doctor's companions in Doctor Who. He played cool. Rory, which was really neat. And then Rory is great because he's like this. He starts off as this bumbling, nobody.
What are you going to talk to us about the Doctor, David?
Oh, I'm going to get there.
Stay tuned, everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to get there, guys. Gosh, I love that show. Oh, it's so good.
How good is it, David?
Oh, it's real good. So Rip Hunter, he's from the future, and Vandal Savage basically like lives, throughout the future. And basically, at the time Rip Hunter exists, Vandal Savage has gotten to the point where he's basically kind of taken over the world. He's like built up armies and weapons and money and resources and stuff like that, to where he's basically been able to take over the world. And in his basic war over the world, he kills Rip Hunter's family. And so Rip Hunter's mission is he wants to get this group together of heroes and villains that he calls the Legends, and go back in time, stop Vandal Savage, save his family,
to become the Punisher,
and also, and in a way, save Kendra and Carter, which are Hawkman and Hawkgirl, or Hawkgirl and Hawkman,
and the world.
Yeah, but also his family. Yeah, mainly his family. He's just his family. Yeah, he's selfish. Okay. Yeah, he's selfish in that way. He's flawed in that.
Screw the world.
Yeah, no, and it's really neat.
Never did nothing for you.
So yeah, he even goes so far as to the Wave Rider, which is his time machine. He stole that.
The Wave Rider.
The Wave Rider, yes. Oh, it's a great...
Is it a jet ski?
No, it's a ship. It's a whole ship. Yeah.
It should be a jet ski. Gosh, that'd be cool.
So, the people he recruits for this mission are Sarah Lance, which we know as...
Rip Hunter?
Rip Hunter.
And the Wave Rider.
And the Wave Rider, yes.
Yeah. Rip Hunter and the Wave
Rider. Soak
it
in. Yeah.
Starring Elvis.
Yes. No, he recruits Sarah Lance, who we know from Arrow as Black Canary, or she was the original Black Canary, who later became the White Canary after she was resurrected from the Lazarus Pit. He brings Martin Stein and
What color is she now?
What's up?
What color is she now?
Well, she's the White Canary now.
Oh, okay.
That's her alias now.
She's got Saba.
He recruits Martin Stein and Jefferson Jackson, who fuse together to make Firestorm. Martin Stein being a scientist from Flash, and Jefferson Jackson being the guy he had to bond with in the season 2 of Flash when Ronnie died in season 1 of Flash. Ray Palmer, who is the Atom from Arrow. He has a special suit that's based. He's like Tony Stark in the sense that like his power set is based on his suit. He doesn't actually have powers. He has a suit that lets him shrink down, but also he shoots laser beams and flies and things like that. He's really neat.
The Atom, right?
The Atom, yeah. Okay. We have Mick Rory, who is Heatwave. He is a villain from Flash, and as well as Leonard Snart, who's Captain Cold. So Captain Cold and Heatwave, the villains from Flash, show up, and then of course we have Kendra Saunders, who is Hawkgirl, and Carter Hall, who is Hawkman. He has all those people up in the pilot episode of the original show. He gets a bunch of them recruited with Oliver and Barry from Arrow and Flash, and basically they're the ones that kind of give him this speech about how like, hey, look, you guys have a chance of like making a difference in the world if you guys do this thing and stuff like that. And even the villains are like, we're just, at first they're like, we're not going to save anybody. We're bad guys. We're not going to do any of that stuff. But then they get this idea that like, oh, hey, we're going to be time traveling. What better way to like find some sort of like ancient, expensive monument or artifact that we can steal and sell or whatever. So they find a way to get into it. And basically, the whole first season is their mission to stop Vandal Savage. They travel through time, they adventure through time, and they're constantly fighting Savage. They're fighting his men. They're fighting his whatever the case may be. Like so there's an episode where he's trying to get a warhead, or there's an episode where he's trying to get lots of money for resources.
Warheads are pretty sour.
They go back and. Yeah, it's quite powerful. Yes. So they go back in time as well as forward in time. Like they go at one point they go into the distant future to the point where they run into Jewel Strait, I think is the actress's name. She plays Kaylee from Firefly. She plays a scientist in the future who is Ray Palmer's like great granddaughter, or no, his brother's great granddaughter.
Right. Yeah, gotcha.
But yeah, so that's neat. And meanwhile, the Time Masters are like this big thing that at one point they end up finding. The Time Masters exist in this place called the Vanishing Point, which is a point outside of time and space, and they're the ones that kind of like oversee time and they police it basically. Like when someone's trying to go around and stop. Yes. Stop people from changing time and the way it is and stuff.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, just similar to the Time Lords, actually. Doctor Who, yes. So basically, in a nutshell, this show, the way I've described it to people is it's Power Rangers meets Doctor Who, because like some of the goofy hijinks they get into feels very Power Rangers.
You definitely like that.
Oh, I love it. It's so good.
You love all of those things.
My only complaint, at least with the first season, is that the first season starts to drag a little bit. As they they keep doing this thing where every couple episodes they beat Vandal, but then he gets away, and then they beat Vandal, and then he gets away, and then he turns it on them, and then they get away, and he turns on them, and they get away, and I'm just like, okay, when are they gonna beat him? Like it's just like
at the end of the show,
I know,
David.
and it just keeps going like that for so long.
You signed up for this.
That it just keeps because sometimes it's like they don't have any way of getting to him, or they don't have anything like that, and so they get involved in some other incident basically at one point they go to the Old West and they meet Jonah Hex, and that's kind of neat.
You're kind of neat.
They actually see him again in season 2, which is kind of neat. But yeah, so I guess the only minor spoiler, or major, maybe somebody gets upset with this, they beat Vandal Savage at the end of season 1.
Woo!
They beat him. Also, in the course of doing so, or I guess part of the way they do that is they end up blowing up the Time Masters base at the Vanishing Point, thereby killing all of the Time Masters. Besides Rip Hunter. So there are no more Time Masters.
The Doctor, yeah.
Besides the Doctor, yeah. Yes. Yep. They're locked in a battle or whatever. I don't know.
Yep.
Yes. So Rip Hunter is the only Time Master left. And so...
Just want everyone to know... I've not watched any Doctor Who in my life.
One of these days, Ethan.
But I know plenty of it because of David.
Yes.
I can talk about it literally because of David.
Yes.
Because he's talked to me about it.
Yes.
Talked at me.
Ad nauseum. Talked at you, yes.
Gosh.
So, season 2, in my opinion, is a little better than season 1 because season 2, it picks up 6 months after the events of season 1, and that Rip Hunter and the crew, the Legends, have taken it upon themselves to, because there are no Time Masters anymore, that they are going to take it upon themselves to correct time.
Yeah.
Anytime there are pirates or time travelers that are out there trying to alter the time frame, they cause what's called aberrations, which is basically like when wrong things happen in the timeline. They go back and they fix those time aberrations, and it's very neat. By the point of season 2, so one of the things I really like about the show in general is that the story, at least in season 1, isn't very. It's not anything like we haven't seen already. It's pretty generic. There's a villain. He's doing a bad thing. We want to stop the bad thing, basically. And so what's neat about the show, I think what's stands out about the show, is that the cast of characters are really neat, and that you get a lot of really good character development throughout. The characters develop to become these better people because of the people they interact with. The villains, Snart and Rory, end up becoming decent people by the end of it. They're still bad guys. They still want to steal things and stuff like that, but they're genuinely they become heroes. Basically, they see the bigger picture, and they see the benefits of helping others, which is really neat.
Right. They learn a lesson.
Yeah, and different other characters grow in different ways. Martin Stein and Ray Palmer, they're both very nerdy people, and they're very they're both very intelligent and stuff like that. And they haven't really had a lot of experiences with violence and with the dark side of the world, basically. And so they're basically having to look it in the face with some of the stuff they're doing out here, actually going out there and fighting bad guys and doing these things. And it's very interesting to see how these characters react to it. This happens a lot more, I think, in season 2, when it's their basic without. So season 2 at first doesn't have this big overarching story of there being a villain right off the bat. So the first few episodes, it's very episodic, and even later on in the show, the series is just like in the season 1, is very episodic in that they're going to a time, they're meeting it, they're doing a thing, basically.
Right.
But the characters all grow basically depending on the episodes. Some of the episodes are oh, this is going to be Jax has to face this thing. At one point during season 2, Jefferson Jackson, he's black, and they go back in time a lot of times, and they face a lot of racial issues because of it. And at one point, he actually ends up captured by a slaver in old Civil War times.
Yeah.
And he's made to look at slavery in the face, basically, and it's very interesting, the stuff that they go through. One of the new developments in the season 2 is that they run into the Justice Society of America, the JSA.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah, led by Rex Tyler, or otherwise known as Our Man. He has the powers to gain super strength, super speed, and vulnerability and things like that for 1 hour a day.
Killing it.
In the comics, he can do it through a pill or a patch. He doesn't actually it's not an inherent ability. In the show, we never get to see it happen. He's just not on the show that often, so we just never see him use his power.
That's lame.
I know, it's really lame.
Come on.
We get to see Henry Hayward Sr., or otherwise known as Commander Steel, which he's very much... So he is the older generation of the hero Steel in the DC Comics.
Okay.
Not the Steel we know, where he's the guy who took up the mantle of Superman after Superman passed. The guy who carries the hammer and wears the metal armor.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, right. Shaquille O'Neal, yeah. That one movie. No, apparently in the older days, in the Golden Age of comics, there was a different Steel, and he's this. But his power set, as far as I can tell, is very similar to Captain America's. In that he's just a really tough soldier who's very patriotic, basically, and things like that. And in the comics, at least in the show, it's not really clear if he has powers at all. But in the comics, his powers come from bionic parts. He's not a formula or whatever. He has he's got robot arms, robot legs. So he's like the $1 Million Man a little bit.
Right.
They have Courtney Whitmore, who's Stargirl. She has the cosmic rod, which in the show, as far as we're told, it basically just makes her fly and she can shoot energy beams. But in the comics, she can do a lot more with that, but we never see that stuff. They're not in there that much.
Can she control? Is she the one that controls
technology?
Yeah,
she can control robots and technology and things like that with her cosmic stuff.
They sent her technology in the 60s or whatever it was.
Well, the JSA in this show, they're based in the 1940s. They're fighting Hitler, basically. It's very Captain America-esque.
You program all of your alarm clocks to go off at the same time.
Right, yeah.
It's very annoying.
They have Charles McNider, who is Dr. Midnight. He is a scientist who he is blind, a little bit like Daredevil, but it's probably more like Riddick, in that his blindness is that he's not like physically blind, like he doesn't see anything. He's blind in that like he can't see anything in the daylight, but at night he sees perfect night vision. So like when he's exposed to light, he just can't see anything.
Gotcha.
But in like at night he can see everything. And then he has like tech that he fights with, and he like bombs that make darkness and stuff like that he can make, you know, even the playing field or whatever, or turn the tides of battle. And then they have Todd James Rice, who is Obsidian, who I didn't realize until I was researching this, he's actually the son of Alan Scott, who was the first Green Lantern. But he is a character who can, he a little bit like Danny Phantom, he can become his shadow, or like fuse with his shadow, and he can like you know, like phase through things and stuff like that. We never get to see any of that.
And he's got to
stuff.
catch them all.
The only thing
Why can't we see any of this?
The only thing we do see him do is he can create darkness around the world, and he does that at one point. He makes everything black around him, so that Dr. Midnight can see, and it makes it so that the villains can't.
So
see
around his
like
immediate area,
immediate,
not the planet.
It says, according to in the comics, apparently he can do it over the entire world, but in the show it makes it look like the whole world. But he does it over like at least the city. It's very OP.
It's a bit much.
Yeah, he does some stuff, but yeah, we don't get to see them that much. And then Amaya Jaway, who is Vixen.
Oh, cool.
So we saw Vixen in Arrow. She shows up in season 4 of Arrow to fight Damien Dark very, very briefly, because her powers are based in magic, and so she helps Oliver with that in season 4. But she's also from CW's Seed show, the cartoon Vixen. But this particular actress, so CW has these like CW Seed on their website, where they have like little mini series that are cartoons of characters. So far all they have is Vixen, but it's got like 2 seasons of Vixen.
What?
And then they're now in like in the next year they're coming out with a season of Constantine. That's going to be an animated Constantine show.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? I haven't seen any of it. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I'm about to check this out too. That's cool.
And it's really neat. But the actress that played Vixen in the cartoon, shows up in Arrow and plays her. But this actress is a different actress.
Well, you haven't seen Justice League Unlimited.
I've seen some of it, but not all of it. Yet.
Right.
I haven't seen anything.
Well,
with Vixen
there's a relationship between Vixen and Jon Stewart.
Oh, neat!
In that
That's
show,
dope.
it's really cool. It's really
pretty
interesting.
Cool.
Yes,
she's a very interesting character. In this, she has a relationship with this guy Nate Haywood, who is the grandson of Henry Haywood, who is Commander Steel. He's Commander Steel's grandson, and he is a historian who he studies and notices times where history changes. I don't know how he does this, because you'd think that if history changed, his knowledge of history would change.
Yep.
But it doesn't for whatever reason. So he sees when things are different, when things change in history. So he calls himself like a time detective. And later on,
Flint, the time detective?
Minor spoilers.
You don't know what that is.
Minor spoilers. He eventually gains powers where he has the ability to make himself covered in steel. Basically, he can turn himself like Colossus. He can turn himself. So he calls himself Steel. But he was debating calling himself Citizen Steel, because he's not a commander, he's not a leader or a captain or anything like that. So he calls himself Steel for short. So
you should look up Flint the Time Detective.
Flint the Time Detective. I'll look it up.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff.
Is it good? Okay.
I'm looking at that through the goggles of nostalgia. It's a show that was on forever ago. You can keep talking.
So yeah, so the original actress that I was going to talk about Vixen, the original actress that played Vixen, Megalyn Kunwoke. I don't know her name. I can't pronounce her last name. I actually watched a thing where it was telling me how to pronounce her name, and I can't even remember it now.
Flint the Time Detective,
goodness
David.
Gracious, what is this nonsense?
It's great.
Oh gosh,
man.
How old is this? Gosh.
I mean, it's probably an anime from the 80s or 90s.
Oh,
woo. I would assume.
Yikes.
It's great. It's super good.
I'm sure it's fine. It looks like the kind of stuff I grew up watching. like Pokemon or Digimon.
Like, you know how Doctor Who goes back in time to fix stuff?
Yeah.
And, like, you know how, like, Wishbone goes back in time to teach you stuff? Did you ever watch Wishbone?
I'm familiar, I guess.
Okay. I feel like he does this, but there's also a lot of creatures I'm seeing in these images, so he might be doing it to capture creatures. I don't know. Look.
I don't know. I imagine it's been a while since you've seen this show.
All I just know is he can go through time and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no.
Cool.
And he's like Bam Bam from the Flintstones.
Yes. So,
Do proceed.
Vixen. Yes. So
Vixen.
Vixen, the original actress that played Vixen, they wanted her to play Vixen again in this series. They wanted her to join up with the Legends this season. But the actress that plays her, they said she was tied up with other things. And a quick look at her Wikipedia page shows that she's already been in one movie, filmed another movie, and is currently filming another movie. So she's been quite busy this year.
Busy. Making money. That's good.
So that's good to hear from her. So yeah, in season 2, the big plot, or the big arc, I guess, of this show is that I mentioned before in Flash, in the events of Flashpoint, Reverse Flash got away after doing his thing, or he became a time remnant or something. He survived even though he shouldn't exist anymore.
Gotcha.
So in Legends, he goes back in time and he plucks Damien Dark out of the timeline before he meets Arrow, like back in the day, like back in like the 60s, before he meets Arrow. And
for why? Unless it's gonna spoil again.
To team up. And then later on, he pulls Malcolm Merlyn from 2016, and the three of them form what they call the Legion of Doom.
Yes!
Yeah!
Yes! That is great.
It's awesome. It's so freaking cool. So, it's neat because Damien...
So, wait. Does he pull Malcolm, like, as leader of the League of Shadows?
He pulls him out after he pulls out modern day Malcolm Merlyn after he's been defeated and after he's just living in an apartment by the time he pulls him out. He's just a guy with a robot arm now.
Cool.
But he pulled Damien Dark out before he gained his magic powers. So he's just a guy who has used the Lazarus Pit a lot. So he's been around for decades and like hundreds of years probably.
Gotcha.
And he's just a guy who's been trained by the League of Assassins. So they're both just like really highly trained bad guys. But they don't really have anything too special besides that. But their goal is to find the Spear of Destiny.
Yeah, it is.
Which is the spear that supposedly pierced the side of Christ and gain the ability to basically rewrite reality. Which is the point they wanted to get to, because they can only do so much by changing the timeline. If they change the timeline, the Legends will know about it because of their technology and they'll find it. But if they change reality, it would be... nobody would notice. It would just be the new reality, basically.
They could just run stuff.
And so that's what really goes on.
Question.
Yes.
Why is it that villains who get away when they definitely shouldn't have, and are, okay and fine and alive and still have powers, still feel the need to exact some kind of revenge? Why can't Reverse Flash just hang out somewhere? Live out his life? Is he going to die if he doesn't?
His motivation is that, so we find out pretty early on in his interactions with Malcolm and Damien that because he is a time remnant and he shouldn't exist, and because he's a time remnant of a person who's dead or didn't exist, didn't come to be a thing, there is some sort of Speed Force entity that presents itself as the form of like a zombified version of Hunter Zolomon, who's the guy who was Zoom. And he's basically like he's Black Flash, who's been chasing him through time and space.
Chasing Reverse Flash?
Chasing Reverse Flash to basically remove him from reality, basically. To take him out of existence, basically. And so the way
For why?
Because he doesn't exist. He shouldn't exist. And so the timeline's currently trying to correct itself. And so he wants the Spear of Destiny to make himself exist, to continue living. And it shows that by the fact that he has this little timer on his wristband, and basically it tells him if he's been in an area too long, and then he has to start running again. So he can't stay in one place for too long, and that's why he needs Damien and Malcolm to continue with the plan and continue with whatever they're doing, because he can't stay in the same place for longer than a few minutes, or else Black Flash will find him.
Right.
And it's very neat. It's very, very cool. And this scene is this season is very it's a huge, very cool romp through time and space. They do a lot of really cool adventures. At one point, or early on, Amaya, Vixen, joins up with the Legends from the JSA, she stows away on their ship, and she basically joins in for the rest of the season, going on adventures and stuff.
Yeah.
And Nate, like I said, gains powers, and so he becomes Steel, and so he starts doing some cool stuff and enjoying the Legends. Oh, by the way, at this point, Carter, after they defeated Vandal, Carter and Kendra, Hawkman and Hawkgirl, they left the Legends. They continued to just live. They went back to 2016 and continue their lives basically. So they didn't do any more than that. So they were down a few members. Also, because of some events at the beginning of this season, Rip Hunter was separated from the team for a while, and which is really neat because this season has some really strong character development especially in the case of Sarah Lance in the White Canary, in that she is given the position of captain of the crew, and it's really neat because she really takes it. It's a very much of a call to power, I guess, or a call to, I don't know, doing greatness, I guess, call to greatness, I guess, but she's not willing to accept the call. It's very much a hero's journey type thing with her,
yeah, gotcha.
Especially because of her past, because she feels she isn't a good person. She's like, I've been an assassin.
She's probably not.
I've killed tons of people. You know, I'm not a good person, and so, the show is a really, really good way of showing, like, you know, how she overcomes some of these things and grows, and it's very, very neat. I also think it's really neat how they kind of toy with history a bunch in this, like a lot more so in this season than they did in the previous season. In the previous season, because they were so busy fighting Vandal Savage, they don't really get to do a whole lot with history. But because, like I was saying before, this season is very episodic in that they go from adventure to adventure throughout time and space. They get to like run into a lot of really neat characters and people, and do a lot of really funny and cool things. Like I mentioned before, they have Jonah Hex, but they also meet George Washington, they meet Al Capone, they meet George Lucas, they meet J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
And it's very, very cool.
You're cool.
I also, one of the things I also think I like about this show a lot is I love how fun the show is and how self-aware the show is. The show has a serious tone at times, but it doesn't take itself seriously. And because of that, it feels very Guardians of the Galaxy-esque. Especially with this like hodgepodge of a group, like these teams, these nobodies that are like work together to fight the Legion of Doom. Like, but even the Legion of Doom has this too. Like they know they're a bunch of villains who all have like basically failed. They're each of them in their own way a villain that has failed, and they're trying to, like, you know, redeem themselves. And I love that they're so aware of that. Like they make comments all the time about how, you know, one guy does this thing and the other villains are like, isn't that a little cliche to do that? Like, you know, isn't that a little too comic booky? Like, you know, like those kinds of things. And it's very neat that like they have the best humor. Like Merlin and Damien are just so great together. It's just, it makes for a very fun time.
Same actor for Damien?
Fun. Oh yeah, everybody's the same.
I love that.
Everybody's the same, and
just
it's really
giving him
great.
Work.
Yeah, and it's great because like I really like the villain, and I really like the thing. My only gripe, I think, like I mentioned, the gripe for season 1 was that it kind of dragged. The only gripe for season 2 is that like,
is that it's CW?
No, is that like,
that's my gripe, David. I haven't
Reverse
seen
Flash. Like, you understand him and you kind of get what he's doing and stuff like that, but like he seems to be the one in charge more or less, and I don't like him being in charge, and he kind of like, I guess what's the word? He kind of imposes his will on the other two villains, and also the Legend that's at one point, because he's just too powerful. Like the whole show, they're just like, well, how do we beat a speedster? We just can't beat a speedster. He's just too fast. And even he's like, you can't. I can break every one of your neck in like a split second. And it's very like, what is it? Reddit has like a who would win subreddit and basically there's like a large portion of that subreddit that's just like, Flash would win every fight because he could just beat everybody in like half a second. And I'm like, no, he also has limits, and you know, he's all these different things. Yep. But it's like, it just felt like that with Reverse Flash. Like, and like he kept getting away with doing all of the things that Flash is told he can't do. Like he kept coming back in time, changing time. He kept going around. He kept making, at one point he makes like hundreds of time remnants of himself that are also super fast. And I'm just like, this is so broken and unnecessary and just dumb. And I don't like him as a villain. I didn't like him as a villain at all. But Malcolm and Damien, I actually really like Damien in this because they take away his magic powers. Like they found him when he wasn't magic. So he's just a smooth talking bad guy who's also an assassin. Like, yeah, he's still a threat, but he's like something the Legends could definitely handle.
Yeah.
And with Malcolm, there, he's a bigger threat, but he's still something they handle. But it's like when they gave them Reverse Flash, like there's all these moments in the show where I'm just like, well, how will the heroes ever defeat the Reverse Flash? They keep talking about how they can't beat a speedster, and like out of the whole time, I'm just like, why doesn't one of y'all call up Barry and ask him how does he beat the speedsters? Oh, that's right, because he just outruns them eventually, and I'm just like, that's so stupid. Like, I don't know, it just feels like they keep running it. Like the CW, like you were saying, problem I have with the show is basically CW in that like they keep running into the same problems, and one of their problems right now is that they just don't know how to effectively beat a speedster besides using speed. So I don't know. Cool. But otherwise, the show's great. I really like it. It's very fun. Like I said, I didn't think about it until I was like writing some notes about this. This show feels very much like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like the characters are just so goofy and weird, and they don't really always like each other. In fact, the beginning of this show, like the JSA, like when they run into the JSA is like they're like a well-oiled machine. Like they all work together so well, it's unbelievable. And then but they bring up a lot that you guys do you guys ever stop arguing? You guys are constantly arguing. You guys are always fighting one another. And by the end of the show, like, or at least by the end of the 2 seasons, the characters they're good. They're really well. They work well together, and it's very neat. And that growth is very fun to watch. Like we talked before, I think it makes for a very good story. It makes for a much better story than the overarching plot of we have to stop this villain from doing this bad thing. The side plots of the characters growing is so much more interesting and engaging, which is great.
Sounds good. Sounds
makes
interesting.
for a great show. Yeah,
cool.
I love everybody. I love it, and they should all watch it.
I like that it's shorter too, right?
Yes.
Shorter
So that's another thing I didn't realize about the show was that the CW shows are generally 23 episodes, and the first season of Legends is only 16 episodes, and the second season is only 17 episodes. It's a little shorter. You have almost like less, and it's only 2 seasons right now as opposed to Arrow, which is 5 seasons, or Flash, which is 3 seasons, and Supergirl or anything like that. Like you don't have that much to work with, and it gives you enough information, I think, that you don't really have to see the other shows to get, because the characters don't interact with these other characters that often. They do have the crossover episode with the aliens that Flash and Arrow did in season 2 of Legends. They face the Dominators, whatever. They have that the 3-part episode where they all face off the different Dominators, and so that everybody interacts with that part. And that might be a little confusing without seeing the other shows. But otherwise, they mention the other shows, but they don't actually do much with them. I mean, they have some things like season 1 of Legends. They go to a time where it's like a super future. I mentioned there's a few times they go to the future, but there's one time they go to the future where it's like 30 years in the future, and it's like Vandal Savage is kind of taken over a little bit, but not quite. Like he hasn't taken over the whole world, but he's definitely taken over Star City. And like you see Arrow, and he's like failed basically. He's failed the city, and he's like lost an arm. And John Diggle's son is like the current Arrow. Connor Hawke is the current Arrow, or Connor Hawke in the comics, but it's John Diggle, it's John Jr. that's playing Arrow, and basically he's, it's very neat because it shows you get to see Oliver. You see Stephen Amell come on and play an older Oliver Queen. And he plays a version of Green Arrow we see in the comics that we just don't get to see anywhere else. It's very cool. It's a very neat. Cool. It's a very neat episode.
Sounds like a comic.
Yep.
Sounds fun.
That's another thing. This show feels very much like a comic book, and it doesn't always stick close to the characters, but it does feel very much like it. It feels like the closest thing this show has to like when it first started, I thought it was gonna be like more of a Justice League thing, but it's definitely more of like a Guardians of the Galaxy thing, which is neat, especially with them protecting time. In season 2, so yeah,
excellent,
a lot of fun,
cool stuff.
That's mine. What is your topic today?
All right, so I believe last episode I talked about manga and its impact on me. It was either the last episode or the episode before that.
Mm-hmm.
And in thinking about some of that, I looked up a little bit of information on a publisher named TokyoPop, because I wanted to talk a little bit about that and sort of the history of that group, what they did, what they're doing now, how that's influenced me. It's super fun. So they're first off, do you know that name?
TokyoPop. I feel like I've heard you talk about them before, but I've never. I'm not familiar with their work now.
Super fun. So
I think it was before my manga time.
they had a very large hand in getting manga to the U.S. Legally, like under license.
Yeah.
When it first boomed, like when manga became really, really big in the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, it was big. TokyoPop was a huge publisher, had nearly 50% of the market in manga.
Oh wow!
Here in the U.S. in sales and
stuff. Were they like as big as like Shonen or anything like that?
Like Shonen Jump? Yeah. Just as big.
Neat.
If not bigger. Just
That's
as big
cool.
as Viz. If not bigger. They...
Oh, Viz. That's right. Viz did
Viz
Shonen
Media
Jump.
is Shonen Jump,
right.
yes.
Viz Media. Okay, yeah.
So, TokyoPop is a publisher. They were established in 1997 by a guy named Stuart Levy. I'm saying his last name is Levy. It might be Levi. I assume it's Levy, though. It's Levy.
Levy. Okay.
Stuart Levy. He's often referred to as Stu, it seems, in a lot of things that I read about him, interviews and different things of that nature. So, in 97, they were established. And I think just a couple years later, they published Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon was like their first big thing. That was sort of what caught on as their first big published manga here in the U.S.
I love Sailor Moon. I've never read that. I need to read it or watch it or something. I need to do something with it.
They were one of the first. I don't know if they were first or if Viz was first, but they were one of the first groups of publishers here in the U.S. to publish manga in its original right to left layout.
Yeah, you were talking before about how they used to just
they used to mirror it. Yeah. Yes, they would used to mirror the whole. They would get this comics from Japan that were read right to left, and they would mirror all the images, and then put in the English text. That's how they used to do it. That's how publishers used to do it. And TokyoPop was just like, screw it. I bet our readers could handle this and they could learn it. And so they started doing it right to left. So they didn't have to mirror it. That cut down on production time a lot. It allowed them to get stuff out sooner, which is good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. It was part of their authentic manga, 100% authentic manga, like sort of stamp. They would put that on any of their books that were read right to left. I have some.
Oh, wow.
So, like, I still have manga from them. I had a much larger collection previously. I've traded in a lot or turned in a lot. Kept just sold the ones that I really like. But I have plenty from TokyoPop.
Based on the popular Dreamcast game?
Yeah, we're looking at a copy of Cold Sept Volume 1. I think there was only 4 volumes of this. It was a shorter one, if I recall correctly. But it's based off video games that were card games.
Cool.
Really, really fun little manga. But yeah, and then D and Angel I have here as well. Same deal.
Oh wow, 100% authentic.
So yeah, you can see all these little stamps that they have, which is really cool.
I feel like I've seen that stamp before, but I don't think I ever noticed.
This is where it came from. Yeah,
put that together.
TokyoPop. This is their little symbols on the spine of all their books.
Yeah, I've seen that logo before.
Really common logo, yeah. And so
I don't see a lot of it now. Are they?
So we'll get there.
Okay, all right.
We're covering the history of them.
All right.
So again,
all right.
97 when they were formed, so it makes them 20 years old this year. And again, if you got into manga, I guess around when I would have, early 2000s, or if you were into it when it started on the rise, when it got big, this is a company you would have known. They were all over the shelves. If you would go into a Borders or Walden's, which is where I got a lot of my manga at the time.
Walden's, wow.
Yeah, they're not around. They'd be all
bottom out.
Even at Barnes and Noble, I'm sure they sold TokyoPop as well.
Oh,
but
yeah.
like TokyoPop was an enormous seller, and a lot of manga came to the U.S. through TokyoPop.
Very cool. Yeah, I imagine Shonen wasn't the only one doing that. So I wasn't familiar with the other.
In fact,
Viz. I keep calling him Shonen, but Viz Media.
So Viz Media did a lot. TokyoPop was big, obviously, at the other things at the time. Let me see. Hold on, give me 1 second. Oh yeah. This is Viz. ADV, that's the other big one. ADV and the 7 Seas did a little bit. They're bigger now. Sorry about that. ADV Films is another manga sort of publisher. I think they were more into anime than they were into manga, but they did both.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll probably talk about them another day. So TokyoPop and ADV and several other companies are part of what was kind of the first big crash of the anime and manga industry here. The first big bubble burst.
Oh, wow, okay.
So when they were sort of casualties of it, more or less.
Oh.
So the reason you don't know too much about TokyoPop is because they're not what they used to be.
I see.
And I'm going to get there in their history, but like first is some good stuff, right? So TokyoPop, according to them, I think on their website and maybe from another source that I have, are responsible for popularizing the word manga here in the States, in the U.S., as to refer to Japanese comics.
That's cool.
They're the ones that sort of brought that word into our
They brought manga
language.
over here?
Yeah.
Manga.
Kill you. For those who don't know, I call it manga.
Yes.
Because that's how you should call it.
Yep.
And others don't. It makes me want to slap them. Or murder them. Anyways.
They learned it from reading. They don't know.
So, yeah, it was 2002 that they released their authentic manga, where they started doing the right to left versions of manga, which I had my first brush with at the end of 2002 when I first read Shonen Jump, because they published like that as well. Viz Media decided to publish that way, which is a good decision.
Yep. Do you know when Viz started coming to America were they around the same time? Like I mean, they were competing around the same time, but do you know?
So Shonen Jump, the first issue is January 2003, which was beginning to be sold in November 2002. That's when I came across it. It was in November 2002, which was the end of 2002. I think I know that TokyoPop had already been publishing manga before that.
Okay, so yeah,
so since '97,
I see.
TokyoPop had been bringing anime.
Nice.
Over.
Okay, that is cool. That is really, really neat.
Yeah, and like I said,
so it's like
Sailor Moon
it's like the forefathers of manga in America, at least.
Kind of, yeah. Definitely one of the biggest players. And so yeah, and by 2004 they had nearly 50% of the manga market share in the U.S.
Wow. Okay.
And so their kind of their heyday was 2004 to 2008. That's when they experienced the most success. I think it was 2004 they brought in.
That was like during the big boom or whatever. Like that's when manga was hot in the streets.
Let me find this statistic. In 2004. Yeah, I think. Yeah, 2004 made $35 million in revenue. TokyoPop did.
Wow,
and that's they're just making manga, and so this is when people
that's nuts.
are first learning about manga. We get this huge influx, and TokyoPop is one of the big players, just bringing stuff over here as fast as they can, along with Shonen Jump, along with Viz Media.
Yeah.
And eventually ADV Films and other groups as well, just bringing stuff over as fast as they can.
I didn't realize it was so
people could
popular
buy stuff
back then.
Yeah,
I knew it was I knew anime was like
boy.
like I knew anime and manga have been coming in a big way lately.
I don't know if you've ever seen my manga collection in its entirety.
No.
Like before I started.
No, before you started
getting
rid of some of them.
You can see like that the graphic novels I have up there. Like it was probably 3 times that.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, I have all of my Shonen Jump.
The magazines, yeah.
I don't have all the Shonen Jump issues that exist, but I have quite a bit. I have several years worth of subscriptions of Shonen Jump issues.
Wow.
As well as several years worth of New Type USA subscriptions, which are from ADV Films, which I mentioned before.
Oh, okay.
And a couple other magazines, because magazines eventually died as well. I think the only real anime magazine that exists today is Otaku USA, which came in real late game.
Yeah.
And I think really only hung around and still hangs around because they have a good internet presence. They have
you got big on the internet,
which is something you would have to do. Yeah.
Gotta level up with the technology for sure.
So, 2008 kind of was a turning point when things started to kind of go down for TokyoPop. They started losing. This is when the bubble started to burst. Sales went down. I think from 2008 on to 2011.
Something they did, or
sales just kept going down.
Business.
So, I've talked to you about this before, and I want to do a little bit more research into this.
Sure.
But my opinion, and from what I understand, what TokyoPop and a lot of other publishers were doing they were bringing anime, they were bringing manga over here to the U.S.
Yes.
And they were doing their best to meet demand. They were doing their best to bring us a product that we wanted, that we didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, anyone who was into manga or anime before these big companies started to bring it over here, started to license it, were already used to getting it via the internet, most likely.
Yeah.
If you liked anime and manga, there were a couple of ways to get it.
Yeah.
And the internet played a big role in getting a lot of stuff. People would get stuff from Japan, get issues from Japan, scan it in, and they would make fan subs of anime or fan translations of manga.
Yeah.
And even today, you can pirate literally any anime or manga that's out there.
Yeah. It's all
you can
out
get
there.
it really easily, and you could do the same back then.
Well, that's like a lot like the music industry when people started torrenting music for a while back in that time.
Yes,
Yeah,
similar thing.
Yeah.
Like the internet changed the game for a lot of industries, and this is definitely one of them.
Okay.
And it was See, it's interesting to me because it's basically like saying all of these industries, these publishers are saying, "Hey, here's that thing you like. We would like you to pay for it.
Yeah.
But bear in mind, it's not going to be quite as caught up as the stuff that you can pirate online. So here's something that you like, but it's not as good as the thing you already get for free. Would you like to pay for it?"
Yeah.
And that's sort of how it was. There was this big boom at first because I think a lot of people got into manga, and like me, they may have felt like, oh, that's the only way to get manga, is to go buy it from these stores.
Yeah.
But then you're introduced, like I was introduced, a lot of people friends of mine that I made in middle school, who realized that I liked manga, a couple friends that I had who also liked it were like, hey, here, just take the CD. I just downloaded a whole bunch of manga onto this, and it's way farther ahead than Shonen Jump or whatever. You can get whatever's current in Japan right now. And so it's not even that you could pirate the same thing. Mm-hmm. So you could pirate something better than what these people were offering you to buy.
Yeah.
That was the issue.
Yeah.
That was a major problem.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a whole lot that publishers either could do or wanted to do, either because of denial maybe, or because they just
they couldn't meet the demand.
Meet the demand.
Yeah.
And a problem that TokyoPop cites, that I think their CEO cited in a statement, and I'll paraphrase it. I'm not quoting it exactly, but basically he was like, we tried real hard, and we really wanted to put manga in an ebook form and have it on the internet where you could get it legally licensed. You could pay for this manga and have it online as fast as you could. But one of the problems that he cited that I didn't even know is that a lot of Japanese publishers were very conservative about that, and didn't want to give rights to take the manga and make it electronic. They only wanted the print publishing right. They only wanted to give them print publishing rights. So they couldn't keep up with demand, or they couldn't fight piracy effectively.
No.
And because of that, just ate it. TokyoPop fell real hard.
Wow.
So there's a group called Kodansha Comics, which you may have heard of now because they publish a lot now here in the States. Previously, they published through TokyoPop. So a lot of their big names came through TokyoPop. And TokyoPop started losing a lot of Kodansha titles. In 2008 and onward, they just lost them. Same with a couple of other titles now that TokyoPop lost when they went down, that are now being published by other groups. So, let me see. Yeah, it was about 2011. That year started off with a resignation of one of their higher officers at TokyoPop, and then they started laying off people left and right.
Yep.
And in February and March, and then in April, they announced that they were going to close down their North American publishing chapter, close down their office in California, and not going to publish anything else in America, which was rough.
Yeah.
Tons of fans were real sad about it. I personally didn't even know. I was on my mission at this point.
Okay.
I had no idea this was happening.
Yeah, I had zero idea.
And so
I was not as into manga.
It's so interesting to me.
But I feel this because I was into anime around this time, and I definitely felt the same way with anime. Was when I first got into it, when I first got into anime, like actually like when I understood what anime was, to enough that I would go to an anime convention. I realized when I went to my first anime convention, the only anime I'd ever seen was One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach.
Yeah.
And Dragon Ball Z, I guess, but I didn't count it at that as that before.
Speed Racer, Sailor Moon.
Right, whatever.
No.
I didn't watch any of those.
Gotcha.
They were later or earlier. But so I was like, and then what I always assumed was that all anime was like One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach, and that they were like hundreds of episodes long, and terrible. I was like,
okay, yeah.
So when people talk about like, oh man, I've seen this anime and this anime, I'm like, oh my gosh, where do you get the time? Like, how do you find all the time to watch all of these shows? But then they're like, no, most of these episodes are like 26 episodes.
By the time you've gotten
episodes.
into it, a lot of 13 and 26 episodes. That was just like a standard.
And
thing
so what I
point.
did was, me and Scott, my twin brother, after that first convention, we started going home. And we were like, where are we going to find this stuff? And then we found sites like you were talking about for anime, but not like you were talking about for manga, but for anime. And we would just stream just anime left and right. And it wasn't until like years later, after I'd gotten out of high school, that I realized that like the effect that was happening on the anime industry. And that's why now, like, if I watch an anime, I make sure either I'm paying for the streaming service that I'm watching it on, or I'm physically buying the copy of the anime to watch at home.
I'll do both of those.
Yeah, I'll do both.
Like,
I
watched, you and I both watched all of The Devil is a Part-Timer on Netflix.
Yes.
And we both now own hard copies.
each purchase our own copy of it. Yes,
at the same convention. We both saw it. We were like, yes, please. Great anime.
Yeah, excellent anime.
We'll probably never see more of, but it's real good. And we liked it, so we supported it. And
definitely.
That's the way fans have to be now.
Yes.
If we're going to avoid things like this.
Yeah, and it's so interesting when I run into people that don't get that concept, because Christopher Aries is a voice actor. He voices a lot of different characters. You've probably seen him in hundreds of things. You just don't even know. He's in Ouran High School Host Club. He plays one of the twins.
Oh, cool.
That's one of his roles. But he's played a lot of big major roles as well.
The pretty one?
Goofy characters. I don't know. The twins.
It was a joke, David.
I know. But he does panels at conventions where he talks about where he basically mentions that he talks about how pirating has like basically like been killing the anime industry.
Yeah, no.
And he basically talks about how like, you know, like, and a friend of mine has been to one of his panels, and he talked about how like, somebody talked to him one time at a Q&A and like asked him about like, oh, anime is so expensive, and he's like you are why this company and this company went out of business.
Yes.
Like you.
He probably said TokyoPop or ADV Films.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, wow. Like,
and ADV was huge because I'm if I recall correctly, it was Texas based.
Yeah.
So it was like where a lot of voice actors are right now with Texas, like Funimation and things of that nature. And ADV was big. I'll try to do a report on them too. But yeah, that's like, and it's so difficult because piracy was like I said. It was already ingrained into the existing fandom.
Yeah, it didn't even register when I was younger that I was doing the harm.
It's an uphill battle from the start.
Yeah,
like from the start of publishing manga or bringing anime to the U.S., you're already fighting a difficult fight.
Yeah,
because people are already used to getting it in ways that weren't necessarily legal.
Yeah,
so now you have to convince them to pay for something that may or may not be worse than what they're getting. Maybe your translations are better, but maybe they don't like the dub, and maybe you're not offering them the sub. These different things like that, and like freaking Yu-Gi-Oh, just terrible. I much prefer the sub of Zexal to the dub of Zexal.
Oh yeah,
you've heard me talk about that before.
Yeah.
And you can only go so far with the sub, and then they just don't have any more of the sub anime for that, which is just stupid in my eyes.
Yeah, well,
so dumb. Anyways,
yeah,
so that's the problem I felt that TokyoPop experienced and that other people experienced. Aside from print media in general, getting an extreme cut from the internet, just getting hurt by the internet, because of the way information or the exchange of information changed from print media in our society to digital media. That was hard enough, I think, but also the difficulty in keeping up with that in this particular medium in manga and anime, like with the licensing problems that TokyoPop says they had. It's just difficult. If you can't find a way to get stuff to your audience, make it good quality at a good price, something that they're willing to do, and have them interact and have them actually purchase this stuff, you're not going to stay afloat. And that was just the problem they hit. and I think TokyoPop just, I mean, probably delved too much into it. Like, because they were like I said, they were huge. They, almost like you would consider too big to fail when they were really big.
Yeah.
However, if you have all of these licenses that you're paying for, all of this publishing that you're paying for,
Yeah.
and you're not getting in return, no one's buying your stuff, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Now, the company itself didn't leave. It still exists.
Oh, wow.
They stopped publishing in North America.
Okay.
And a lot of their licenses expired in North America. However, the company still exists. They still had a YouTube channel. They still tried to push to the YouTube channel. They still had a website that they released things to. So from 2011 to sort of 2015, they just tried to varying degrees of success, I think, to still have some type of presence on the internet.
Yes.
Man, I forgot to even mention these guys were big also in sort of the cultural appropriation in the West of Japanese and Asian culture, and in that they held these things called the Rising Stars of Manga, which was a competition where American and Western artists would send in 15 to 25 pages of their own made manga, quote unquote, in the manga style and things of that nature, and they would every year TokyoPop would find their like top 5, their favorites, the best, and they would publish them in like an anthology. And they did that for 8. I think they did 8 times, 5 to 8 times. I don't remember the exact number.
That's neat.
Which is really cool. Yeah, very encouraging.
That's a cool thing. Yeah.
Fun and cool, and some of that will come up later.
I know a lot of manga artists in Japan do a lot of like things like that. They do popularity polls for characters or goofy things like that, like to kind of get their fans engaged and just not just reading their stories, but also interacting with the characters themselves. That's neat that they would do stuff like that overseas as well.
They published TokyoPop published plenty of American-made manga, quote unquote.
Yeah.
As well as the Japanese originals. Also manhwa. They put out a lot of manhwa is the term for Korean comics, which are also cool. And you could say they were fairly indistinguishable between manga. A lot of the styles are similar.
Yeah.
I noticed a difference, and anyone who really takes a second to look would notice a difference because most of the manhwa is left to right. I think that's how the Korean language works. I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But all the manhwa that I've ever read has been left to right, rather than right to left like manga. And it has some here. Kill Me, Kiss Me. Great. 5 volumes, real quick. It's one of my guilty pleasures. It's real good. It's funny.
Neat.
It's a lot of fun. But other titles like King of Hell, really good. And I think I'll read off some more later. Anyways, they were just huge. They did a lot of things, and they were great for the community of manga lovers and anime fans. But yeah, like I said, from 2011 to 2015, they just sort of tried to keep a digital presence in the U.S. They are also apparently did very, very well in Germany. They've been publishing in Germany the whole time as well, and they've actually become more successful in Germany than any other publisher there, I think.
Wow.
As far as manga is concerned, they
That's
do.
Neat.
So they're still alive and well there. They're great.
Yeah, I'm glad they're still making money.
In 2015, at San Diego Comic-Con, they announced that they would go back into publishing in the U.S. in 2016.
Nice.
Problem being that they don't have any licenses from Japan, so they have no manga license to them.
What have they been publishing in Germany?
Things they have Japanese stuff published licensed there, from what I understand,
see.
but it's different in different countries. So we don't have any licenses to bring stuff to the U.S. here.
I see.
And they don't have any confidence in any publishers in Japan to get any licenses right now. So, like I said, Kodansha, who used to give them stuff, now publishes their own stuff here.
Yeah.
And a couple other groups have picked up things that licenses that ran out for TokyoPop, like Rave Master, that I really like. So I'm gonna just read off to you a lot of the manga that TokyoPop brought to the U.S. when they were big, when they were good. Beck, The Get Backers, Girls Bravo, GTO, Love Hina, Rave Master, Sayuki, Samurai Deeper Kyo, Sergeant Frog, some of the Mobile Suit Gundam series.
Wow.
Blame, that I've mentioned before, the movie that's on Netflix now. Aoshi, however you say
Lupin the Third. What?
Lupin the Third, yeah.
Wow.
So like, TokyoPop had their hand in a lot of stuff and brought
That's
a lot
neat.
of great things here. Fruits Basket, Cardcaptor Sakura.
Wow.
All of these things. Tons more.
That's cool.
Manhwa, yeah, Manhwa that I mentioned. King of Hell, Kill Me, Kiss Me, Blade of Heaven, blah, 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 Fairy's Landing that I've also read a little bit about. PhD fantasy degree that I've read some of. Plenty of good manga. There's tons of stuff. Yes, all this original language, English language manga, tons of these things that I haven't read a whole lot of.
That's cool.
Just all kinds of stuff that they brought. They helped really form the base for manga and anime fandom here in the U.S. Just really awesome. And so it was really exciting to hear that they were coming back. They were going to publish again. So I hear you're asking, what would they publish if they don't have any licenses?
Yeah, what the heck?
So what they've done, which is really interesting to me, is they've sort of taken their idea of, or their hand in Western appropriation of East Asian pop culture. They've gotten a lot of licenses to publish manga versions of Disney stories. So,
like Big Hero 6?
At
my work, I've seen a Big Hero 6 manga.
That might be them. Think more like Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, wow. I didn't know there was a Beauty and the Beast manga.
It sure is, bro.
That looks really good. What the heck?
There are 2 volumes of it. There's a volume that's from Belle's perspective and a volume that's from Beast's perspective.
Wow.
Really, really interesting stuff. So that's so Lilo and Stitch, Finding Nemo. There's other one where this girl interacts with all of the Disney princesses. There's an Alice in Wonderland based off of the Tim Burton films. There's an adaptation of that.
What the heck?
Really, really cool stuff. They've also attempted to do... So they've got plenty of stuff in YouTube and films and other animation things going on as well. They've also released something called Pop Comics, which, if you've heard me talk about Webtoon, Line Webtoon, which is a big, big app where people can post comics.
Yes.
Web comics or manhwa or manga. Lots of comics have gotten their start there just from being popular amongst fans. Webtoon will take them on and be like, here, make a comic for realsies, and we'll give you an audience. And Pop Comics is kind of trying to do the same thing, to not as much a degree as success as Webtoon, but it's out there, and they're doing what they can. TokyoPop is trying, I think, everything they can to continue to bring Asian pop culture to its fans, continue to do this. I think they're doing the best that they can right now with what they have. So what they have, I think they still have some licenses for their like American-made manga and different things like that. And nothing that they have right now, to my knowledge, is Japanese original. But it's cool. There's one that they're doing called Ocean of Secrets, which is really cool. It is from it's by a girl named Sophie Chan, who has a big following on YouTube. They picked her up after she sort of self-published some of her work, this specific series, Ocean of Secrets, and now they're publishing it for her. She was born in Iraq.
Wow.
Yeah, really cool. Became infatuated with shoujo manga at the tender age of 7. Dreams of becoming a manga artist herself. She began teaching herself how to draw, using her favorite shows as inspiration and refusing to give up. As she studied to become an engineer, she kept drawing. Then in 2008, she started a YouTube channel to show off her work, has since amassed an audience of 375,000 subscribers.
Wow.
Just really, really cool. And it looks great. Her art's awesome.
Yeah.
So taking this traditionally
Sophie Chan, that sounds familiar.
Not Japanese person making manga and publishing that. And I think that's a really cool step in the right direction. So they seem to have had a decent year of publishing. All of 2016 would have been their first year back publishing in North America. Mm-hmm. I really hope that they get some traction, that they get some more licenses, and that they can start putting out new manga from Japan out here as well, in addition to what they're already doing now. I love them. They're a big part of my history as a manga fan and as a nerd. And I love that they're still around and that they're doing what they can to stay relevant. And I hope everything works out. I hope they keep going, keep plugging along. Obviously, they have a good standing in other countries, so I don't think the company is going anywhere as a whole. I just hope that they can get a good firm foothold here in America in the manga publishing industry at the moment, because so the bubble burst, right, and everything kind of was crap for a quick bit, but it's kind of leveling off.
It does
now.
feel like that. It does feel
stabilizing.
like
I think it's finding its feet.
Because not just with this company, but just in general. Like,
right.
I feel like now that I feel like every convention I've gone to, I see more and more that people are kind of realizing that, you know, if you like a thing, you show that you vote with your money.
You vote with your wallet.
If you give money to this thing, they'll make more of it, and the industry can continue.
Yes. Please pay for anime and manga, because people are doing great things right now. Like we have Crunchyroll, we have Hulu, we have Netflix. People that are really trying to bring us stuff as soon as they can from Japan.
Yes.
To allow us to experience it the way they're experiencing it in Japan, and to allow us to be able to pay and support something that we love, and not have to sacrifice quality to do so, or sacrifice being up to date on stuff to do so. Mm-hmm. And I like that. So please, if you like anime, if you like manga, pay for what you're watching or reading. Do that, please.
Yeah, definitely.
I cannot stress that enough. And it helps the artists. You know, it allows them to keep doing what they're doing.
Yep.
One of the things I love about going to conventions is going to the artist alley.
Yes.
I like supporting artists that I think are good.
It's the best place to spend money on something you're never going to get anywhere else.
Totally, yes. And I will totally spend money in there. Just do it. I love TokyoPop. I'm glad that I was able to talk about it. I'm glad that they're still around. They're still giving it their best. The overall thing right now is that, like, I guess the overall back look at it is before the big burst, they were a huge purveyor of Japanese manga and Korean manhwa, and even American-made manga. Now, afterwards, when they're coming back, everything basically is about the American-made stuff or the Western-made stuff, but they're doing their best to, I feel, support the community, give the community a place to share what they like, give the Western community a place to share their drawings, their artwork that they enjoy, that's been inspired by manga, and I love that because that's something that I want to do and do. And I appreciate having them around. I appreciate that they're not gone and that they're still trying to be here, and I wish them success, and I hope they do well.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's it. That is my little bit for today, and support your local manga artists.
Tip your waitresses.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very neat. Man, I didn't know that stuff about that company. Yeah,
dog.
That's neat.
It's real. It's hard out there in the streets.
It is, man. Art is hard. I definitely feel better about, you know, paying for anime and stuff like that. I love, like you said, supporting those things that you love, and that's what I try to do. Like, even now with movies and stuff that come out, like when Power Rangers came out with its movie, and I was like, dude, I want this movie. I wanted to do so well.
Bought 6 of them.
I saw that movie like 4 or 5 times, and then I bought the Blu-ray when it came out immediately, because I'm just like, look, I like this thing. I want you to have my money. I think one of the things that I think that helped is the meme "Shut Up and Take My Money."
Yeah.
I feel like that while that meme I not personally have done anything, I feel like that mentality has like kind of spread a lot over the years, and I feel like that's a definitely good thing. So yeah, definitely. That's really cool.
But that's the show for us.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. We appreciate you. I'm Ethan LeBlanc.
I'm David McQueen.
You can contact the pod at thosenerdsyouKnowPod@gmail.com. We also have a Twitter, TNYKPod. Leave a comment. Follow us on Podbean. We'll eventually get some... eventually have our podcast up on different mediums as well, hopefully through iTunes, maybe some SoundCloud as well. So be on the lookout.
If you have any questions, tweet us or email us, things like that, or comments. If there's anything you want us to talk about as well.
Yeah.
If there's anything you want us to hear our opinions about or hear us blather on about.
Tell us what your favorite TokyoPop manga or manhwa was. Do that.
Those kinds of things. I'm planning on getting a Twitter account they can reach me at some point and ask me questions. Bug me for watching Netflix with subtitles and playing games with inverted controls.
Yes. like some kind of mutant.
Yes. All right, guys.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a great week. Bye.
Bye.